In the unforgiving frontier town of Cedar Hollow, a wedding born from desperation became a moment of quiet rebellion. Mara Vance, the woman everyone mocked, the stranger no one wanted, stood at the altar facing a man who needed her only for what she could do, not who she was. The town watched with cruel eyes, waiting for her to break. But when shame pressed heaviest, a child's voice cut through the silence. "She's beautiful. That's my mama." That single moment cracked something open, in Mara, in Cole Hart, in a home that had forgotten what warmth felt like. If you want to see where this story of survival, dignity, and unexpected love leads, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story can travel. The church smelled like dust and judgment. Mara stood in the back room, fingers trembling as she tried to smooth the wrinkles from a dress that had seen better decades. The fabric was yellowed at the seams, patches visible where someone had tried to mend tears that went deeper than thread could fix. She'd found it in a trunk at the boarding house, abandoned by some woman who'd probably worn it to a wedding that actually meant something. "You sure about this?" Mrs. Hadley's voice came from the doorway. The boarding house keeper had a face like old leather and a heart that pretended to be harder than it was. Mara met her eyes in the cracked mirror. "Do I have a choice?" "There's always a choice, girl. Not when winter's coming and the boarding house is full." Mara's laugh came out bitter. "Not when the only job offer in 3 territories is marry a widower who needs someone to cook and clean and raise his daughter." Mrs. Hadley stepped closer, her expression softening just a fraction. "Cole Hart's a decent man. Grief-struck, sure, but decent. He won't hurt you. Decent men don't propose to strangers through a newspaper advertisement. Desperate men do." Mrs. Hadley adjusted the veil. Another borrowed relic, this one torn along one edge. "And desperate women accept." The words sat heavy between them because they were true. Mara had been desperate for months now, ever since she'd arrived in Cedar Hollow with nothing but a carpet bag and a story no one believed. She'd tried finding work, laundry, cooking, mending, but every door closed when they saw her face. Not because she was ugly, though the town seemed determined to believe that. Because she was different. Sharp angles where other women had curves. Dark circles under eyes that had seen too much. A mouth that forgot how to smile somewhere between her sister's disappearance and the long road west. "5 minutes," Mrs. Hadley said, squeezing Mara's shoulder. "I'll be in the front row, for whatever that's worth." When she left, Mara was alone with her reflection and the growing certainty that she was making a terrible mistake. But terrible mistakes were better than starvation, better than another winter sleeping in a boarding room that cost more than she could earn, better than the looks she got from shopkeepers and ranch hands and women who clutched their husbands a little tighter when she walked past. The door opened again. She expected Mrs. Hadley, maybe with some last piece of advice or borrowed courage. Instead, a girl stood there, maybe 7 years old, with tangled blonde hair and a dress that had been pressed with more care than Mara's. Her eyes were enormous, the kind of blue that looked like sky after rain. "You're her," the girl said. Not a question. "I'm Mara." "I'm Lila." The girl stepped inside, studying Mara with the unsettling directness only children managed. "You're going to marry my papa." "That's the plan." "Are you scared?" The question caught Mara off guard. She'd expected hostility, maybe tears, not this clear-eyed curiosity. "Yes," Mara said, "because lying to children never worked." "Are you?" Lila considered this. "A little. Papa said you'd help with cooking and things. But Mrs. Granger from town said you probably can't cook worth a damn, and you look like something the cat dragged in." Mara's throat tightened. Mrs. Granger might be right. She's mean, though. Papa says mean people talk the most. Lila moved closer, still studying. "I don't think you look like cat drag. You look tired." Something in Mara's chest cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but enough to let a little air in. "I am tired," she admitted. "Me too." Lila reached out and took Mara's hand. Her fingers were small and warm and completely trusting. "Papa said if I'm good today, you'll stay. Will you?" "I'll try." "Okay." Lila smiled then, gap-toothed and genuine. "I can show you where Mama's garden used to be. Papa won't go near it, but I remember some things. The mention of Cole's dead wife sent a fresh wave of anxiety through Mara's stomach. She was stepping into a ghost's life, wearing a ghost's role, raising a ghost's daughter. I'd like that, Mara managed. They're ready, Bo, someone called from the hallway. Lila squeezed her hand once more, then disappeared as quickly as she'd come. Mara took a final look in the mirror. The woman staring back looked exactly like what she was, desperate, afraid, and out of options. But maybe that was honest. Maybe honest was enough to start with. The walk down the aisle felt longer than the journey west had been. The church was barely half full. Most of Cedar Hollow had better things to do than watch a mail-order bride marry a rancher who couldn't be bothered to court properly. But the ones who'd come weren't here for celebration. They were here for spectacle. Mara felt their eyes on her like brands. She heard the whispers, even though they tried to muffle them behind gloved hands. Homely thing, isn't she? Desperate times, I suppose. Poor Cole. First Sarah dies, now this. That child deserves better. Each word was a small cut, and Mara had been bleeding from 1,000 of them since she arrived in this town. She kept her eyes forward, focusing on the man waiting at the altar. Cole Hart was taller than she'd expected from his awkward, businesslike letters, broad-shouldered in a way that spoke of hard labor, not leisure. His face was weathered, lines carved deep around his mouth and eyes, not from laughter, she guessed, but from squinting into sun and wind and whatever grief looked like when it settled into bone. His hair needed cutting, dark strands touching his collar. He wore a clean shirt, at least, and boots that had been polished to something resembling respectability. He didn't smile when he saw her. Didn't frown either. Just watched her approach with an expression she couldn't read. When she reached him, there was a terrible pause. The Reverend, an old man with liver-spotted hands, cleared his throat. "Dearly beloved," he started, but his heart clearly wasn't in it. Mara barely heard the words. She was too aware of Cole standing rigid beside her, of the congregation's hungry attention, of Lila sitting in the front row between Mrs. Hadley and an older woman who must be a neighbor. "Do you, Cole William Hart, take this woman?" "I do." Cole's voice was flat, mechanical. The voice of a man checking off a necessary task. The Reverend blinked at the interruption but continued. "And do you, Mara Elizabeth Vance, take this man?" "I do." She tried to inject something into the words. Conviction, maybe, or at least certainty, but they came out as hollow as his had. "Then by the power vested in me—" "Wait!" The voice came from the back of the church. Mara's stomach dropped. She turned to see a woman standing, Mrs. Granger, the same one Lila had mentioned. She was dressed in dark purple, her face pinched with righteous indignation. "Reverend, I must object. This is unseemly. Brother Hart is clearly not in his right mind, marrying some stranger off a wanted poster." "It was an advertisement, Judith," Mrs. Hadley snapped. "There's a difference. She could be anyone, a criminal, a loose woman, She's what I need." Cole's voice cut through the church like a blade. He didn't shout, didn't have to. "And unless you're volunteering to cook, clean, and raise my daughter, I'd appreciate you sitting down." The silence that followed was absolute. Mrs. Granger's face went purple to match her dress. "I'm only thinking of poor Lila." "Don't!" Cole's jaw was tight enough to crack teeth. "Don't use my daughter to dress up your gossip." "Well, I never—" "No, Judith, you never do. That's the problem." Mrs. Hadley was on her feet now. "You never help, never offer anything but opinions. Some of us remember what it's like to need a second chance." Mrs. Granger sat down hard, her mouth a thin line of fury. The Reverend, clearly eager to finish, rushed through the rest. "By the power vested in me by the territory of Montana, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Cole turned to Mara. For the first time, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Not warmth exactly, but maybe acknowledgement, like he was seeing her as a person instead of a solution to a problem. He leaned in. The kiss was brief, formal, and completely without feeling. His lips barely brushed hers before he pulled back. "Done," he said quietly. "Done," she agreed. They turned to face the congregation. Mara expected more whispers, more cutting glances. Instead, she found Lila standing on the pew, her small face split by the biggest smile Mara had seen since arriving in Cedar Hollow. "She's beautiful," Lila announced to the entire church. Her voice rang clear and certain. "That's my mama now." The silence that followed was different this time. Not hostile, just shocked. Mara felt something shift in her chest. That hairline crack widened just a little more. Cole's hand found hers. His grip was calloused and warm, and surprisingly gentle. "Let's go home," he said. Home. The word felt strange, foreign, like something in a language she'd forgotten how to speak, but she let him lead her down the aisle, past the staring faces and pursed lips, past Mrs. Hadley, who was wiping her eyes, past Mrs. Granger, who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. Outside, the October sun was thin but bright. A wagon waited, hitched to two sturdy horses. Cole helped her up without ceremony, then lifted Lila onto the bench between them. "How far?" Mara asked as he took the reins. 2 hours north, ranch is up in the hills." "Isolated, then?" "Yes." He glanced at her. "That a problem?" "No." She'd spent enough time around people to know isolation had its advantages. "Just different." "Different from what?" "From anywhere I've been." He seemed to accept this non-answer. The wagon lurched forward, and Cedar Hollow began to shrink behind them. Lila chattered for the first half hour. About the ranch, about her pony, about the cat that lived in the barn and only had 3 legs but could still catch mice better than any 4-legged cat she'd ever seen. Cole let her talk without interruption, occasionally making a sound that might have been agreement. Mara listened, trying to piece together the life she'd just stepped into. A ranch in the hills, a widower and his daughter, a dead woman's memory hanging over everything like smoke. When Lila finally ran out of words, the silence settled heavy. "I should tell you," Mara said eventually, "I'm not a very good cook." Cole's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "I figured. And I've never raised a child. Lila's not complicated. Fed, clean, and not left alone with the horses. That's the basics. What about the rest?" "The rest we'll figure out." He paused. "You can read?" "Yes." "Right? Well enough? Then you're ahead of where Sarah started." He said his dead wife's name carefully, like testing the weight of it. "She learned. You will too." It wasn't comfort exactly, but it wasn't cruelty either. Mara decided to take it as encouragement. The landscape changed as they climbed. The flat plains gave way to rolling hills, then steeper grades covered in pine and aspen. The air grew colder, sharper. Mara pulled her thin shawl tighter. "Winter comes early up here," Cole said, noticing. "You'll need warmer clothes." "I'll manage." "Not asking if you'll manage, telling you you'll need them." He kept his eyes on the road. "There's fabric in the house, Sarah's sewing kit. You know how to use a needle?" "Some." "Good enough." They passed a marker, just a pile of stones, but clearly deliberate. "That's the property line," Cole said. "Everything from here to the ridge is heartland, 300 acres, give or take." It looked like wilderness to Mara. Beautiful, harsh wilderness that wouldn't forgive mistakes. "How long have you been here?" 8 years. Built the house the first year, barn the second. Been building ever since, one way or another." "And Sarah?" His hands tightened on the reins. 7 years. She died last winter." "I'm sorry." "Everyone's sorry." His voice was flat again. "Doesn't change anything." Lila had gone quiet, pressed against her father's side. Mara realized the girl had heard this conversation before, probably too many times. "What do you need me to do?" Mara asked, "besides the cooking and cleaning." Cole looked at her then, really looked. His eyes were gray, she noticed. Storm cloud gray. "Keep her from being alone," he said quietly. "That's the main thing. I'm in the fields most days, barn the rest. She needs someone." "I can do that." "Can you?" "I don't know." Mara met his gaze. "But I'll try. That's the best I've got." Something in his expression shifted. Not warmth, not yet, but maybe respect for the honesty. "Fair enough," he said. The ranch appeared as they crested a final hill. It was smaller than Mara expected, a log house with a covered porch, a barn that had seen better years, a couple of outbuildings she couldn't identify, and a corral holding a few horses. Behind it all, the mountains rose like a wall against the sky. "It's not much," Cole said. "It's more than I had yesterday," Mara replied. He pulled the wagon to a stop in front of the house. Before he could help her down, Lila had jumped off and was running toward the barn. "3 legs," she called. "I'm back." "She'll be busy for a bit," Cole said, finally climbing down. He offered Mara his hand. She took it, letting him help her to the ground. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his face. The lines weren't just from weather. They were from carrying too much for too long. "I'll show you inside," he said. The house was dark until he opened the shutters. Light spilled across a main room that served as kitchen and living area both. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. A table and chairs, handmade, sturdy, sat near the kitchen area. Stairs led up to what must be sleeping rooms. Everything was clean but empty. No curtains on the windows, no rugs on the floor, no personal touches that made a place feel lived in. "Your room's upstairs," Cole said. "First door on the right. Lila's is across the hall. Mine's at the end." Mara nodded. "Separate rooms." That was a relief, at least. "Kitchen's got basics. Pantry's there." He pointed. "Well's out back. Woodshed's beyond that." He was listing facts like a man giving directions to town. No emotion, just information. "When do you want supper?" Mara asked. "Whenever you can manage it. I'm not particular about time. What do you like?" "Food that's hot and doesn't poison me." "Low standards. Learn to have them." He moved toward the door. "I've got work to finish before dark. You settle in." "Cole." She stopped him before he could leave. "Thank you." He turned, frowning. "For what?" "For not leaving me in Cedar Hollow." His expression did something complicated. "You're thanking me for marrying you?" "I'm thanking you for giving me a chance." He studied her for a long moment. "Don't thank me yet." "You haven't survived a winter here?" Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a finality that left Mara standing alone in a stranger's house, wearing a borrowed dress, carrying the title of wife like an ill-fitting coat. She climbed the stairs slowly, finding the room he'd indicated. It was small, but clean. A bed with a faded quilt, a chest for clothes, a window that looked out toward the mountains. Her carpet bag sat on the bed. Cole must have brought it in while she was looking around downstairs. Mara opened it, pulling out the few things she owned. 2 dresses, both worn, a hairbrush with missing bristles, a small bundle of letters she couldn't bring herself to throw away, and at the bottom, wrapped in cloth, the real reason she'd come west. Her sister's locket. She held it carefully, the silver chain pooling in her palm. Inside were 2 tiny photographs, one of Mara, one of Iris, taken years ago, before everything fell apart. "I'm still looking," Mara whispered to the picture. "I haven't given up." The locket went back into the cloth back into the bag. Some things were too precious to explain, too dangerous to share. Downstairs she heard the door open. Lila's voice called up. "Mara, are you hungry? I'm hungry. Can you make biscuits?" "Mama used to make biscuits, but Papa's are terrible." Mara tucked the bag into the chest and headed back down. The girl stood in the kitchen, dirt on her dress and hope on her face. "I can try," Mara said. "That's what Papa says about everything." Lila climbed onto a chair. "He tries a lot, but mostly things don't work right." "What doesn't work?" "The biscuits, the washing, everything turns gray. His braids for my hair." She touched her tangled blonde mess. "He tries, but they always fall out." Mara felt that crack in her chest widen a little more. "How about we start with the biscuits and work up to braids?" "Okay?" Lila's smile was bright enough to light the darkening room. The biscuits were a disaster. Too much flour, not enough water, and Mara burned them while trying to figure out the temperamental stove. They came out hard enough to use as weapons. But Lila ate hers anyway, smothered in butter and honey, declaring them almost good. When Cole came in for supper, dried beef and beans that Mara managed not to completely ruin, he eyed the biscuits but didn't comment. Just ate what was in front of him with the mechanical efficiency of a man used to poor cooking. "Tomorrow," Mara said, "I'll do better." "Tomorrow you'll burn something different," Cole replied. That's how learning works. It wasn't encouragement exactly, but it wasn't criticism either. After supper, Lila wanted a story. Mara, exhausted and overwhelmed, almost said no. But the girl's eyes were so hopeful that she found herself sitting in the chair by the fireplace, Lila curled against her side, making up a tale about a brave cat with 3 legs who protected the barn from mice armies. Cole worked at the table, mending a bridle, pretending not to listen. but Mara caught him glancing over once or twice, something unreadable in his expression. When Lila finally fell asleep mid-story, Cole carried her upstairs without a word. He came back down to find Mara cleaning up the kitchen, trying to figure out where everything belonged. "Leave it," he said. "You've done enough today." "I barely did anything." "You married a stranger and moved to the middle of nowhere. That's enough for one day." He paused. "Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be harder." "How?" "Because tomorrow you'll realize what you signed up for." He wasn't wrong. The next morning started before dawn. Mara woke to the sound of Cole moving around downstairs, the smell of coffee already brewing. She dressed quickly in one of her worn dresses and headed down to find him pulling on a heavy coat. "There's coffee," he said without preamble. "Lila usually wakes around 6. She'll need breakfast and the chickens need feeding. Eggs are in the hen house. Watch out for the rooster. He's mean." "Where are you going?" "North pasture. Fence needs mending before snow comes." He grabbed his hat. "I'll be back by midday. Maybe." "What should I—" But he was already gone, the door swinging shut behind him. Mara stood in the empty kitchen, holding a cup of coffee that was strong enough to strip paint, and realized exactly how alone she was. Lila appeared an hour later, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Is Papa gone?" "North pasture." "Oh." The girl didn't sound surprised. "He's always gone." They managed breakfast together, scrambled eggs that were passable, and toast that was only a little burnt. Lila showed Mara where the chicken feed was kept, how to scatter it so the hens didn't fight, and which rooster to avoid. "That's Bastard," Lila said, pointing at a large red bird with murder in his eyes. "Lila!" "That's what Papa calls him. I'm just being honest." The rooster lived up to his name, charging at Mara twice before she managed to grab the eggs and retreat. "You did good," Lila said encouragingly. "He got Mrs. Henderson so bad she needed stitches." "That's comforting." "She deserved it. She's mean like Mrs. Granger." The morning disappeared into 100 small tasks Mara had never considered. Hauling water from the well, figuring out the stove's moods, sweeping floors that somehow got dirty again the moment she turned her back, trying and failing to work the washing paddle the way Lila explained her mother used to. By midday, Mara was exhausted, bruised, and pretty sure she'd made everything worse instead of better. Cole came back as the sun reached its peak, taking in the kitchen's chaos with a single glance. "How bad?" he asked. "I ruined your shirt, the one you left in the wash basket." "How'd you manage that?" "I'm not sure. It was white when I started. Now it's pink, and possibly smaller." His mouth twitched. "That was my only good shirt." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. I hated it anyway." He grabbed a piece of bread from the counter, examining it. "This looks edible." Low praise. High praise from me. He ate it standing up, then headed back toward the door. "I'll be in the barn. Lila, stay out of the loft." "I'm always in the loft, which is why I'm telling you to stay out." When he left, Lila sighed dramatically. "He worries too much." "He worries the right amount," Mara said. "Do you worry?" "About what?" "About us. About staying." Mara looked at this child who'd known her for less than a day, but already trusted her with questions that cut deep. "I worry about burning supper," she said honestly. "And that rooster. And about 100 other things. But not about staying." "Promise?" "I promise I'll try." Lila seemed to accept this. "That's what Papa says too. Everyone's trying." That afternoon, while Lila was supposed to be napping but was actually reading in the loft she'd been forbidden from, Mara explored the property. Not far, she didn't want to get lost, but enough to understand the shape of her new life. She found the garden Lila had mentioned. It was overgrown now, weeds choking what might have once been careful rows. But Mara could see the bones of it. Herb markers, a trellis for climbing plants, stepping stones arranged with care. This was Sarah's place, the spot where the dead woman had put her mark on the world. Mara knelt in the dirt, pulling weeds almost without thinking. Her hands knew this work even if her mind didn't. Her mother had kept a garden once, before things fell apart, before Iris disappeared and their family shattered like dropped glass. She was so focused on the work that she didn't hear Cole approach. "What are you doing?" Mara jerked upright, guilt flooding through her. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. I didn't mean to." You're gardening. I was just clearing weeds. I can stop. I should have asked, why? The question threw her. Because it was your wife's garden. It's dirt and plants. Sarah's gone. His voice was flat but not angry. If you want a garden, garden. You don't mind? I mind that food costs money we don't have extra of. If you can grow some, that helps. He paused. She had a book about plants and what grows up here. It's in the house somewhere. Use it if you want. Then he walked away, leaving Mara kneeling in the dirt with tears she didn't entirely understand blurring her vision. That night's supper was better. Not good, but better. And when Lila asked for another story, Mara found the words coming easier. Cole sat at the table again, working on some project with leather and tools. Not participating, but not absent either. Tell the one about the cat again, Lila demanded. I told that one last night. So? It's good. Tell it again, but make it different. So Mara did, adding new details, new adventures. Lila interrupted with suggestions. Make him fight a badger. Make him save a mouse. Make him learn to fly. Cats can't fly, sweetheart. Three-legged cats can't catch mice either, but ours does. Fair point. Cole's shoulders shook slightly. It might have been a laugh. Mara wasn't sure. The days began to blur together. Each one brought new disasters. Mara flooded the kitchen trying to work the pump, shrunk another shirt, let the bread rise too long, and had to scrape dough off the ceiling. But each day also brought small victories. The chickens stopped attacking her. She figured out the stove's temperament. She found Sarah's plant book and started learning the difference between herbs and weeds. Lila followed her everywhere, chattering endlessly about everything and nothing. The girl was starved for attention, for conversation, for someone who would listen to her thoughts about clouds and cats and why the sky was blue. Cole remained distant, but not cold. He thanked her for meals even when they were bad, noticed when she fixed the wobbly chair leg, brought her fabric from town without being asked, just set it on the table with a gruff, for winter clothes. 3 weeks in, Mara woke to the first snow. Just a dusting, but enough to turn the world white. She found Cole at the barn, checking supplies. Winter's here, he said. So I see. You still have time to leave, before the roads get bad. Mara looked at him sharply. You want me to go? I'm saying you could, if this isn't what you thought. Nothing in life is what I thought it would be, Mara said. That doesn't mean I run. What does it mean? It means I figure it out, same as you. He studied her for a long moment. You're different than I expected. How? Tougher. Messier. His mouth quirked. More honest about being a disaster. Should I be offended? No? He turned back to the supplies. Sarah used to pretend she knew what she was doing until things exploded. At least you're honest about not knowing. It was the most he'd ever said about his dead wife. Did you love her? Mara asked before she could stop herself. Cole's hand stilled on the grain sacks. I married her. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got. He lifted a sack, muscles straining. Love wasn't the point. Partnership was. We built something together. Raised Lila. That mattered more than feelings. And now? Now I'm trying to not let it all fall apart. He set the sack down, meeting her eyes. That's where you come in. To keep things from falling apart. Yes. What if I'm not enough? Then we'll fall apart messier than if you weren't here. He picked up another sack. But at least we'll have tried. It wasn't romantic. Wasn't even particularly kind. But it was honest. And Mara found herself respecting that more than pretty words would have earned. That evening, Lila wanted to braid Mara's hair. They sat by the fire, the girl's small fingers working through the tangles with more determination than skill. Mama had long hair, Lila said quietly. Papa used to braid it for her in the mornings. Did he? Before she got sick. After that, she was too tired. Lila tugged at a knot. Do you think she's watching us? I think if she is, she's glad you're taken care of. Are you taking care of me? I'm trying to. That's good. Lila leaned against her back. I like trying better than giving up. Mara's throat tightened. Me too, sweetheart. Cole came in from his evening check of the animals, stopping in the doorway at the sight of them by the fire. Hair's crooked, he said. Papa, Lila protested. I'm not done yet. Still going to be crooked. You're mean. Just honest. But his voice was softer than the words. He moved to the table, but Mara caught him watching them in the reflection of the dark window. His expression was complicated. Not quite longing. Not quite grief. Something caught between the two. Later, after Lila was asleep, Mara came back downstairs to find Cole still at the table, a bottle of whiskey in front of him and a half-empty glass in his hand. Can't sleep? She asked. Never could. Not since... He stopped. You want some? I shouldn't. Why not? You're a grown woman. It's your house now, too. Mara poured herself a small glass, sitting across from him. The whiskey burned going down, harsh and warming at once. Why'd you really answer my advertisement? Cole asked abruptly. I told you, I needed work. There's work that doesn't involve marrying strangers. Not for women like me. What kind of woman is that? The kind with no family, no references, and a past she can't explain. Mara took another sip. The kind who gets doors closed in her face. What's in your past? Nothing I can talk about. Criminal? No, just complicated. Cole nodded slowly. I can respect that. Everyone's got things they don't talk about. Even you? Especially me. He refilled his glass. I'm not a good man, Mara. Don't mistake me for one. What makes you not good? I let Sarah die. The words dropped like stones in still water. I'm sure that's not... It is! His voice was flat. She was sick, needed a doctor. I waited too long to go to town, told myself it would pass. By the time I got help, it was too late. He drank deeply. So when I tell you I'm not good, believe me. Mara sat with this confession, turning it over in her mind. Mistakes don't make you not good, she said finally. They make you human. Tell that to Lila when she asks why her mama's gone. I think Lila knows you did your best. My best wasn't enough. It never is. That's not the same as not good. He looked at her then, really looked. You talk like someone who's carrying weight too. Everyone's carrying something. What's yours? Mara thought about the locket upstairs, about Iris and promises and the reason she'd come west in the first place. Someone I couldn't save, she said quietly. Someone I'm still looking for. Cole didn't press, just nodded, understanding in the gesture. They sat in silence for a while, two damaged people sharing space and whiskey and the kind of honesty that only came in the dark. Think we'll make it? Mara asked eventually. Through winter? Through everything. Cole considered this. I think we'll try. That'll have to be enough. Mara raised her glass. To trying. He clinked his against hers. To trying. Outside, the snow kept falling, quiet and relentless, covering the world in white. The winter came down hard after that first dusting, like it had been waiting for permission to show its teeth. By mid-November, the snow was knee-deep in places, drifted higher against the barn and outbuildings. The temperature dropped until Mara's breath frosted in the air, even inside the house. Cole spent his days breaking ice on the water troughs, checking the livestock, hauling endless loads of firewood. He came in each evening with his face raw from wind, ate whatever Mara had managed to cook, and fell into bed too exhausted for conversation. Mara's failures multiplied with the cold. She burned through a month's supply of lamp oil in 2 weeks because she didn't know how to trim the wicks properly. Shrunk 3 more of Cole's shirts trying to wash them in water that was too hot. Let the bread dough freeze on the counter overnight and had to chip it out like rock. Broke 2 plates, cracked a window trying to scrape ice off the inside, and somehow managed to lock herself in the henhouse for an hour before Lila heard her yelling. You're really bad at this, Lila observed one afternoon, watching Mara try to patch a pair of Cole's work pants. The stitches were crooked and bunched, nothing like the neat seams Sarah's clothes showed. I'm aware, Mara said, unpicking the thread for the 3rd time. Mama could sew anything. She made my doll's dress. Lila held up a rag doll with a surprisingly well-crafted outfit. It has tiny buttons and everything. Your mama was talented. She was perfect. Lila said it matter-of-factly, without meanness, just stating what she believed to be true. Papa says so. Does he? He says she never complained, never failed at anything, never got mad even when things were hard. Mara set down the pants, looking at the girl carefully. Lila, nobody's perfect. Your mama was a person, which means she made mistakes too. Papa doesn't say that. Maybe Papa only remembers the good parts. That's what people do when they miss someone. Lila frowned, thinking this over. Do you miss someone? The question landed like a punch. Mara thought of Iris, of the last time she'd seen her sister's face, the promises she'd made and broken. Yes, Mara said quietly. Someone I should have protected better. What happened to them? I don't know. That's the worst part. Is that why you look sad sometimes? When you think nobody's watching? Mara's throat tightened. 7 years old, and this child saw everything. Yes, she admitted. That's why. Lila climbed into her lap, small arms wrapping around her neck. It's okay to be sad. Papa's sad all the time, even when he pretends he's not. Mara held her, this fierce little girl who'd lost her mother and gained a disaster of a replacement, and felt something shift in her chest. Not quite love yet, that seemed presumptuous, but something close, something that felt like the beginning of belonging. You're getting better at hugs, though, Lila said, pulling back. You used to be stiff like a board, now you're only stiff like a stick. High praise. I'm honest. Papa says it's important. Papa's right. That evening, Cole came in covered in snow, his face grim. Lost 2 chickens, he said, pulling off his coat. Something got in the hen house. Fox, probably. I checked the latch this morning, Mara said, guilt flooding through her. I thought I secured it. Thought isn't the same as did. His voice was hard. Those chickens are eggs we won't have, food we can't spare. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix it. He moved to the stove, pouring coffee with sharp, angry movements. I can't be everywhere at once, Mara. I need you to handle the things you say you'll handle. I did handle it. I checked the latch. Not well enough. The accusation stung because it was true. She had checked it, but quickly, distracted by Lila calling from the house. She hadn't tested it properly, hadn't made sure it was truly secure. I'll do better, she said. You keep saying that. Cole slammed his cup down hard enough that coffee sloshed over the rim. When does the doing part start? That's not fair. Fair? He turned on her, and for the first time since she'd arrived, she saw real anger in his face. You want to talk about fair? Fair as I married you to help with this place, and instead I'm fixing your mistakes on top of everything else. Fair as those chickens are dead because you couldn't be bothered to check a simple latch properly. I did check it. Not good enough. Nothing you do is good enough. The words came out harsh and cutting. Sarah would have... He stopped himself, but too late. The silence that followed was absolute. Mara felt something harden in her chest. Sarah's dead, she said quietly, and I'm not her. I never will be. If that's what you want, you married the wrong woman. You think I don't know that? His voice was raw now. You think I don't see it every damn day? The burned food, the ruined clothes, the 100 ways you're not what this place needs? Then why did you marry me? Because I was desperate. Because winter was coming and I couldn't do this alone anymore. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and exhaustion warring in his expression. But maybe desperate isn't enough. Maybe I should have just... Papa? Lila's small voice came from the stairs. She stood there in her nightgown, face pale and scared. Stop yelling. Cole's anger deflated like a punctured bladder. Lila, I didn't know you were... You're being mean. Tears tracked down the girl's face. Mara's trying. She's trying really hard. I know she is, but Mama made mistakes too. I remember. You just don't want to. Lila's voice shook. She burned things. She broke things. She cried when you weren't looking. She wasn't perfect. Lila, stop pretending she was. Stop being mad at Mara for not being someone she can't be. The girl was sobbing now. I don't want perfect. I want someone who stays. Someone who tries even when it's hard. That's what Mara does. That's enough. Cole looked stricken. He moved toward his daughter, but she ran past him, straight to Mara. Mara caught her automatically, holding the shaking child while her own eyes burned with unshed tears. I'm sorry, Cole said hoarsely. Lila, I'm sorry. I didn't mean... You did mean it. Lila's voice was muffled against Mara's shoulder. You meant all of it. But it's not fair. Mara's good. She tells me stories and fixes my hair, and she's teaching me about plants. She's good even if she can't cook right. Mara met Cole's eyes over Lila's head. His face was a mess of emotions, guilt, grief, anger turned inward. I'll check the hen house, Mara said quietly. Make sure it's secure for tonight. She carried Lila upstairs, got her back into bed, sat with her until the crying stopped and breathing evened into sleep. When she came back down, Cole was still at the table, head in his hands. I'm an ass, he said without looking up. Yes. Sarah wasn't perfect. Lila's right. I needed her to be. After she died, it was easier to remember her that way. Easier than what? Than remembering the fights. The time she hated this place and wanted to leave. The way she looked at me sometimes like I'd trapped her in a life she never wanted. His voice cracked. She died hating me. Hating this ranch. And I can't fix that, so I made her perfect instead. Mara sat down across from him. She didn't hate you. You don't know that. I know Lila loves you. And children learn love from watching their parents. If Sarah hated you, Lila wouldn't be so sure of your love for her. Cole looked up, eyes red-rimmed. I shouldn't have said those things. You're trying. I know you are. I'm also failing. You're learning. There's a difference. Is there? Mara laughed bitterly. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like I'm just one disaster after another. You want to know what I see? Cole leaned forward. I see someone who gets kicked down and gets back up. Someone who burns dinner and tries again the next night. Someone who my daughter trusts enough to cry on. He paused. That's not failing. That's fighting. For what? For a place here. For a life. His expression softened. I was wrong. You're not what this place needs. You're what we need. There's a difference. Mara felt her walls crack a little wider. The chickens are still dead. Yeah, they are. He almost smiled. But we'll get more in spring. And you'll check the latch better next time. I will. I know. They sat in the quiet for a while. The anger bled out and leaving only exhaustion behind. Sarah used to throw things when we fought, Cole said eventually. Plates, mostly. We went through a lot of dishes. What did you fight about? Everything. The weather, money, whether to stay or go back east. He traced a groove in the table. She wanted to leave after the first winter, said this place would kill her. Why didn't you go? Because I'm stubborn. Because I'd put everything I had into this land. He met her eyes. Because I thought if we just got through one more season, one more year, she'd learn to love it the way I did. Did she? No. But she stayed anyway, for Lila, for me. His voice dropped. And then she got sick, and I wonder if this place did kill her, just like she said it would. You can't know that, can I? The isolation, the harsh winters, the stress. Maybe if we'd been in town, near doctors. Maybe doesn't matter, Mara said firmly. You can drown in maybe. I've tried. What are your maybes? Maybe if I'd been watching my sister closer. Maybe if I'd listened when she said she was scared. Maybe if I'd fought harder, looked sooner, been braver. The words spilled out before she could stop them. Maybe she'd still be here instead of lost somewhere I can't find her. What? Cole's expression shifted. That's what you're carrying. A missing sister. A missing sister I failed to protect. You come west looking for her? Partly, mostly just running from the guilt of losing her. And now? Now I'm here. Still guilty, still looking when I can. Mara shrugged. Still failing, just in new and different ways. We're a pair, Cole said, both drowning in maybe and guilt. Think we can swim? I think we're too stubborn to drown. Something like understanding passed between them. Not forgiveness, that was too easy, but recognition. Two broken people trying to build something whole. I'll do better, Mara said. With the chickens, the cooking, all of it. I know you will. Cole stood, moving toward the stairs. And I'll try to stop comparing you to a ghost. Try is all anyone can do. Yeah. He paused at the bottom of the steps. Thank you. For how you are with Lila. That part you're not failing at. Then he was gone, leaving Mara alone with the dying fire and thoughts that wouldn't settle. The next morning dawned clear and brutally cold. Mara checked the henhouse latch 3 times, tested it, then checked it again. The remaining chickens eyed her with suspicion, and Bastard the rooster made his usual attempt to take her ankles off, but the structure was secure. Small victory. Breakfast was only slightly burnt porridge and toast that was actually edible. Lila ate without complaint, chattering about 3 legs catching a mouse the size of a small cat. I'm not even exaggerating, Mara. It was huge. Cole was quieter, but not angry, just tired. He thanked her for the food, reminded Lila to stay close to the house, and headed out to check the far fences. Is Papa still mad? Lila asked when he'd gone. No, just thinking. About Mama? Probably. He thinks about her a lot. Lila poked at her porridge. Do you think about your sister a lot? Every day. What was her name? Iris? That's pretty, like the flower. Lila looked up. Do you think you'll find her? I don't know. But I have to keep trying. Why? Because she's my sister. Because I promised I'd protect her. Because giving up feels like killing her myself. Lila nodded seriously. That makes sense. Papa says promises matter more than anything. He's right. He's right about a lot of things. Just not about you being bad at everything. Lila grinned. You're only bad at most things. You're a menace. Papa says that too. That afternoon, while Lila practiced her letters at the table, another task Mara had taken on, teaching the girl to read and write properly, Mara returned to Sarah's garden. The snow was thick here, covering the dead plants and frozen ground. But underneath, Mara could feel the bones of something good. She'd found Sarah's planting notes in the book, meticulous records of what grew well and what failed, when to plant and when to harvest. Sarah had been methodical, careful, someone who planned and recorded and learned from mistakes. Mara wondered if that's why Cole couldn't let her go. Because she'd been his opposite, organized where he was impulsive, patient where he was stubborn. You still there? Mara said quietly to the frozen garden. Still watching? The wind picked up, stirring the snow into small devils that spun and died. I'm not trying to replace you, Mara continued. I couldn't if I tried, but I'm trying to take care of them. Your husband and your daughter. I know I'm doing it badly, but I'm doing it. No answer came, just wind and cold and the distant sound of Cole's axe biting into wood. If you've got advice, I could use it, Mara said, because I'm drowning here and I don't know how to swim. Still nothing. Mara stood brushing snow from her skirt. Talking to ghosts was probably a sign she'd been isolated too long. Or maybe just a sign she was desperate enough to take help from anywhere, even the dead. She was heading back to the house when she heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Not wind, not animals. Hoofbeats. Cole heard it too. He emerged from the barn, hand already on the rifle he kept there. Get inside, he called to Mara. Get Lila. Don't come out until I say. What is it? Just go. Mara ran for the house, finding Lila at the window. There's a man coming, the girl said, face pressed to the glass. A stranger. Get away from the window. Mara pulled her back. Your papa said to stay inside. Who is it? I don't know. They watched from the dimness as a rider approached. Big man, dark coat, riding a horse that looked too fine for these mountains. He stopped in the yard, and even from this distance, Mara could see Cole's posture change. Not quite afraid, but wary. Alert. The stranger dismounted. Words were exchanged, too quiet for Mara to hear through the closed door. Then Cole turned, gesturing toward the house. The stranger followed his gaze, and even through the window, Mara felt his eyes land on her like a weight. I know him, she whispered. Who is he? Lila asked. Mara's mouth was dry. Trouble. The door opened. Cole came in first, expression carefully neutral. Mara, there's someone here to see you. The stranger filled the doorway behind him. Up close, he was even bigger. Well over 6 feet, broad-shouldered, with a face that might have been handsome if not for the coldness in his eyes. He wore good clothes under the coat, the kind that spoke of money and cities, not ranches and frontier. Mara Vance, he said, voice smooth as oil. Or is it Mara Hart now? I heard you went and got married. What do you want, Rafe? Her voice came out steady, which was a miracle given how her hands were shaking. Just a conversation. Rafe Cullen smiled, and it was the smile of a snake. About old debts and family obligations. I don't have any debts to you. No, but your sister did. The room seemed to contract. Lila pressed closer to Mara's side, clearly sensing danger even if she didn't understand it. I don't know where Iris is, Mara said carefully. I haven't seen her in over a year. That's what they all say. Rafe's eyes moved around the room, assessing, calculating. Nice setup you've got here. Husband, child, home, almost respectable. She is respectable, Cole said, voice hard. And you're not welcome here. Easy, friend. I'm not here to cause trouble. Rafe held up his hands in mock peace. Just here to collect what's owed. I told you I don't have anything. Your sister borrowed money from people I work for. A lot of money. When she ran, that debt didn't disappear. It transferred. To who? To family. To you. Rafe's smile widened. $5,000, Mara, plus interest. Call it $7,000 now. The number hit like a fist. $7,000 might as well be $7 million for people like them. I don't have that kind of money, Mara said. Then you'll work it off. Rafe's gaze slid to Cole, to Lila, lingering too long on the girl. Or we can discuss alternative arrangements. Cole moved between Rafe and his daughter in one smooth motion. Get out. I'm just stating facts. Get out of my house before I put a bullet in you. Violence won't solve this. Rafe wasn't smiling anymore. The debt exists whether you like it or not, and my employers don't accept I can't pay as an answer. What do they accept? Mara asked, voice hollow. Time, labor, assets. His eyes moved around the room again. You've got land here, livestock. That could cover some of it. This ranch isn't mine to give, Mara said. It's Cole's. But you're his wife now. His property is your property. That's how marriage works. That's not how anything works, Cole growled. And even if it was, you're not getting a damn thing from us. Rafe sighed like they were being unreasonable children. I'll give you a month, 30 days to come up with the money or work out a payment plan. After that, my employers get impatient. And when they get impatient, bad things happen. Is that a threat? Cole's hand was still near his rifle. It's a fact. Rafe moved toward the door. 1 month, Mara. Think about it. Think about what you have to lose. His eyes landed on Lila one more time before he left. The sound of hoofbeats faded into the distance. Cole turned to Mara, his face a storm. What the hell was that? My past catching up. Mara's legs felt weak. She sat before they could give out. $7,000? What did your sister do? I don't know. She never told me. Mara's hands were shaking badly now. She just disappeared one day. Left a note saying she was in trouble, that she was sorry, that I should forget about her. And you didn't? She's my sister. How could I? Cole paced, anger and fear warring in his expression. This Rafe, he's serious? Yes. The people he works for? Worse than serious. They're the kind who make people disappear. Then we go to the sheriff and say what? That a debt collector came by? That's not illegal, Cole. And I have no proof of anything except his word against mine. So what? We just wait for him to come back? I don't know, Mara's voice cracked. I don't know what to do. I never should have come here. I brought this to your door, put you and Lila in danger. Stop. Cole crouched in front of her. Stop spiraling. We'll figure this out. How? We don't have $7,000. We probably don't have $700. Then we'll find another way. There is no other way. Men like Rafe don't negotiate. They take. Not from me, they don't. Cole's jaw was set. This is my land, my family, and I'll be damned if some city snake is going to threaten what's mine. I'm not yours to protect. The hell you're not. You're my wife. That makes you mine to protect, like it or not. The words should have felt possessive, oppressive. Instead, they felt like the first solid ground Mara had stood on since Rafe walked through the door. What about Lila? She asked quietly. What if he comes for her? Then he dies. Cole said it simply, like stating the weather. Anyone who threatens my daughter doesn't walk away. Papa? Lila's small voice came from the corner where she'd retreated. What's happening? Cole went to her immediately, kneeling to her level. Nothing you need to worry about. That man was scary. I know, but he's gone now. Is he coming back? Cole looked at Mara over Lila's head. Probably. What does he want? Money we don't have for a debt that's not ours. He smoothed his daughter's tangled hair. But we're not going to let him take anything from us. I promise. Don't make promises you can't keep, Mara said quietly. I don't. Cole stood, lifting Lila with him. Go get washed up for supper. I'm not hungry. Go anyway. When Lila had gone upstairs, Cole turned back to Mara. We need a plan, he said. The only plan is for me to leave. If I'm gone, he has no reason to bother you. He'll bother me anyway. Men like that don't give up. Cole crossed his arms. And you're not leaving. You don't get to decide that. I'm deciding it anyway. You're my wife. You stay. Cole? No. His voice was firm. You told me you don't run, that you figure things out, so we figure this out, together. Mara wanted to argue, but the exhaustion was crushing. I don't know how. Then we start with what we do know. This debt. Is it real? Probably. Iris was always getting into trouble, always owing someone something. And she really just disappeared? One day she was there, the next she was gone. No goodbye, no explanation, just a note. You still have it? The note? Yes. Can I see it? Mara hesitated, then went upstairs. She returned with the folded paper, worn from being read too many times. Cole opened it, reading the shaky handwriting. Mara, I'm sorry. I'm in deeper than I can fix. Don't look for me. Don't try to help. Just forget. Maybe someday I can explain. Maybe not. Either way, you're better off without me. Love, I. That's it? Cole asked. That's it. And you came west looking for her anyway. Wouldn't you? If it was Lila? Cole folded the note carefully, handing it back. I'd burn the world down. That's what I've been trying to do, just not very well. Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. What do you mean? You said Iris left no explanation, but this Rafe knows she owed money. Knows where to find you. That means someone's talking. Cole's mind was working now, turning over the problem like he would a broken piece of equipment. Which means there's a trail, a connection. To what? To where she went, who she was working for, why she ran. He met Mara's eyes. Information is leverage. If we can find out who these people are, what they actually want, maybe we can negotiate. Rafe said 1 month. Then we've got 30 days to learn everything we can. Cole moved to the door, checking the locks. Starting with securing this place. If he comes back, he's not getting in without a fight. You'd really fight for me? For a debt that's not yours? It became mine the day you said I do. He looked at her seriously. I meant those vows, Mara. For better or worse. This is worse, but I'm not running. Something in Mara's chest cracked wide open. I don't deserve this. Probably not. I don't deserve half the things I've got either. Cole almost smiled. But we've got each other now. And stubborn people who don't deserve good things but fight for them anyway. That's who survives out here. Mara laughed despite everything, the sound watery and broken. We're both disasters. Yeah, but we're disasters together. Is that supposed to be comforting? It's the best I've got. That night after supper that none of them had much appetite for after Lila finally fell asleep still asking questions about the scary man and what he wanted, Cole and Mara sat at the table making plans. We need money, Cole said, stating the obvious. Or at least enough to buy time. Where would we even get it? Sell cattle in spring. That's 6 months off, but it's something. Rafe said 1 month. So we tell him spring. If he wants anything at all, he'll wait. And if he doesn't, then we make it very clear that taking anything by force will cost him more than it's worth. Cole's expression hardened. I've got friends, other ranchers. The sheriff might not help with debt collection, but he'll help if someone's threatening families. You'd call in favors for me? I'd call in every favor I've got. He leaned forward. You need to understand something, Mara. I'm not a good man, but I'm a loyal one. You're part of this family now. That means something. Even though I lied to you, brought danger to your door. You didn't lie. You just didn't tell me everything. Cole shrugged. Neither did I. We all got secrets. The question is what we do when they come calling. What do? We face them, together. He stood, moving to the window. Tomorrow I'll ride to the Fletcher Ranch. Tom owes me for helping with his barn last year. Maybe he knows something about debt collectors working this area. Cole, it's dangerous to leave us alone. You've got the rifle. You know how to use it? Not really. Then I'll teach you before I go. He turned back. Anyone comes near this house that you don't recognize, you shoot first and ask questions, never. Understand? The instruction should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like permission to fight back. Understand, Mara said. Good. Cole hesitated. Mara, why didn't you tell me about this before? When you answered my advertisement? Would you have married me if I had? I don't know. Probably not. That's why. Fair enough. He moved toward the stairs. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be long. But Mara couldn't sleep. She lay in her small room, listening to the house settle, to Cole moving around in his room at the end of the hall, to Lila's soft breathing across the way. She thought about Rafe's cold eyes, about the threat in his voice when he looked at Lila. Thought about Iris and where she might be, whether she was even still alive. Thought about the life she'd stumbled into here, messy and hard and dangerous, but also something that felt impossibly like it might be worth fighting for. Somewhere past midnight, she heard footsteps in the hall, a soft knock on her door. Mara? You awake? She opened the door to find Cole standing there in his nightshirt, looking uncomfortable. Can't sleep either? She asked. Never could. He shifted his weight. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. For earlier. For comparing you to Sarah, for making you feel like you're failing. You weren't wrong. I was wrong. His voice was firm. Sarah and I, we had 7 years to figure things out. You've had less than 2 months. And you're doing it in winter with a strange man's child, in a place that's trying its best to kill you. He met her eyes. You're doing better than I had any right to expect. I'm really not. You are. He reached out, then stopped himself. Lila loves you. That's not nothing. Lila loves everyone. No, she doesn't. Cole's expression softened. She's careful with her heart. Always has been. But she gave it to you anyway. That means something. Mara's throat was tight. I'm trying not to break it. You won't. You're too stubborn to quit. He almost smiled. Besides, she's tougher than she looks. Gets it from her mother. I thought you said Sarah was perfect. I said I needed her to be. There's a difference. Cole leaned against the doorframe. The truth is, Sarah and I fought like cats in a sack. She hated the isolation, hated how hard everything was. But she stayed. She fought. She built a life here even when she wanted to run. Why are you telling me this? Because I see the same thing in you. The wanting to run. The staying anyway. His voice dropped. Because I need you to know that struggling doesn't mean failing. It just means you're human. The words hit something deep in Mara's chest. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just stay. Fight. Whatever happens with this Rafe situation, we'll handle it. Together. Promise? I don't make promises I can't keep. You said that to Lila. And I meant it. Cole straightened. Get some rest. Morning comes early. He left before she could respond, footsteps fading down the hall. Mara closed the door and leaned against it, something warm and unfamiliar spreading through her chest. Hope, maybe. Or something close to it. Either way, it felt dangerous and necessary all at once. Morning came too early and brought Cole's rifle lesson with it. They stood in the yard behind the barn, far enough from the house that Lila wouldn't hear if things went badly. The sun was barely up, the air cold enough to burn Mara's lungs with each breath. Cole had the Winchester laid across his arms like he was presenting something sacred. You ever fired a gun before? He asked. Once. My father tried to teach me when I was 12. I nearly shot his foot off. That's encouraging? Cole handed her the rifle. Feel the weight. Get used to holding it. The gun was heavier than Mara expected, the metal cold even through her gloves. She tried to position it the way she'd seen Cole do it, but it felt awkward, Wrong. Not like that. Cole moved behind her, adjusting her grip, her stance. His hands were warm where they touched her shoulders, guiding her into position. Rifle stock tight against your shoulder. If it's loose, the recoil will knock you on your ass. How comforting. I'm not trying to comfort you. I'm trying to keep you alive. He stepped back. See that fence post? The one about 50 yards out? The one that looks like every other fence post? That's the one. Aim for it. Mara tried. The rifle wavered, heavy and unwieldy in her hands. She squeezed the trigger the way Cole instructed, gentle, steady pressure. The shot cracked across the morning, the recoil slamming into her shoulder hard enough to make her stumble. The fence post stood untouched. A cloud of snow kicked up about 10 feet to the left of it. Well, Cole said after a moment, at least you didn't hit the barn. That's the standard? For you, right now? Yes. He reloaded the rifle. Again. They practiced until Mara's shoulder ached and her ears rang despite the cloth Cole had given her to muffle the sound. She hit the fence post exactly once out of 20 shots, and that might have been luck. Good enough, Cole said finally, though his tone suggested otherwise. That was terrible. It was bad, he agreed. But it's better than nothing. If someone comes at you, aim for center mass and keep pulling the trigger until they stop coming. What if I miss? Then you die, probably, or run. He took the rifle back. But at least you'll have tried. It wasn't the encouragement Mara had hoped for, but it was honest. She was learning that honesty was Cole's primary language, even when gentler words might have been kinder. They walked back toward the house to find Lila sitting on the porch steps, wrapped in a quilt and looking worried. I heard shooting, she said. Was it the bad man? No, sweetheart, just teaching Mara how to use the rifle. Cole ruffled her hair as he passed. Nothing to worry about. Can I learn? When you're older. That's what you always say. Because it's always true. Cole headed inside, leaving Mara with his daughter. Lila studied her with those two perceptive eyes. Are you scared? Yes, Mara admitted, sitting beside her on the cold step. Of the bad man? Of everything. Of him coming back, of not being able to protect you, of your father getting hurt trying to protect me. Papa's tough. He won't get hurt. Everyone can get hurt, Lila. That's what makes this scary. The girl leaned against her. Mama used to say being scared is okay as long as you don't let it stop you from doing what needs doing. Your mama was smart. She was scared a lot too. I remember. Lila pulled the quilt tighter. She used to cry when Papa was out working. She thought I didn't know, but I did. What was she scared of? Being alone. Being stuck here forever. The winter. Lila's voice got smaller. Dying, I think. She talked about it sometimes when she got real sick, said she was scared of leaving us. Mara's throat tightened. I'm sorry you heard that. It's okay. At least she was honest about being scared. Papa pretends he's never scared of anything. I think your papa's scared of plenty, he just doesn't show it. Are you scared of leaving us? The question hit like a fist. What? If the bad man comes back, if things get dangerous, will you run away to keep us safe? Mara turned to look at the girl properly. Is that what you think I'll do? I don't know. Grown-ups leave sometimes, even when they don't want to. Your mama didn't want to leave you. I know, but she did anyway. Lila's eyes were wet but defiant. So maybe you will too. Mara pulled the girl close, feeling the small body shake with cold or emotion, or both. I'm not planning on it. Planning and doing are different. You're 7. You're not supposed to be this wise. Papa says hard things make you wise faster. Lila sniffled. I've had a lot of hard things. I know, sweetheart, I know. They sat together until Cole called them in for breakfast, a meal that Mara actually managed to cook properly for once. The eggs weren't burned, the bread was toasted evenly, and the coffee was only slightly too strong. Miracle, Cole muttered, taking a second piece of toast. Don't get used to it. Wasn't planning on it. After breakfast, he saddled his horse, a sturdy bay gelding named Rusty, and prepared for the ride to the Fletcher Ranch. You remember what I told you? He asked Mara at the door. Anyone I don't recognize, shoot first. Good. And? Keep Lila inside. Keep the doors locked. Don't open them for anyone but you. And? Stop asking questions like I'm going to forget. Cole almost smiled. Just making sure. He looked past her to where Lila was cleaning up the breakfast dishes. Take care of her. I will. I mean, really take care of her. If something happens, nothing's going to happen. If it does, Cole continued firmly, you take Lila and you run. Don't wait for me. Don't try to be brave. You just run. Cole, promise me. Mara wanted to argue, to tell him that she wouldn't abandon him, that they were in this together, but the look in his eyes killed the words before they could form. I promise, she said quietly. He nodded once, then mounted Rusty and headed out into the snow. Mara watched until horse and rider disappeared into the white landscape, feeling suddenly very alone despite Lila's presence behind her. He'll be okay, Lila said, coming to stand beside her. He always comes back. Always? So far. The girl took her hand. Want to work on my letters? You said we'd practice writing my name in cursive. They spent the morning on lessons, Lila's tongue poking out in concentration as she formed the loops and curves of her name. The girl was bright, picking up reading and writing faster than Mara had expected. She asked endless questions, why some letters were silent, what the difference was between there and there, whether they could write stories instead of just practicing words. What kind of stories, Mara asked. Adventure ones, with brave girls who save themselves instead of waiting for boys to do it. I think that can be arranged. They were halfway through Lila's first attempt at a story, something involving a girl, a three-legged cat, and a band of mice thieves, when the sound came. Hoofbeats. Mara's blood went cold. It was too early for Cole to be back. He'd said the Fletcher Ranch was half a day's ride. Lila, upstairs. Now. But now. The girl heard the fear in Mara's voice and didn't argue. She ran for the stairs while Mara grabbed the rifle from where Cole had left it by the door. Her hands were shaking as she checked that it was loaded. She positioned herself by the window, careful to stay out of direct sight while still being able to see outside. The rider came into view. Not Rafe. This man was smaller, older, wearing a sheriff's badge that caught the winter light. Mara's relief was sharp and immediate. She opened the door as he dismounted. Mrs. Hart? The sheriff was in his 50s, with a weathered face and kind eyes. I'm Sheriff Warren. Your husband around? He rode out to the Fletcher place. Is something wrong? Maybe. Maybe not. Warren stomped snow from his boots. Mind if I come in? Bit cold for porch conversations. Mara hesitated, then stepped aside. The rifle was still in her hand, and Warren noticed. Expecting trouble? He asked, trying to be prepared for it. Smart woman. He removed his hat. I came by because I heard you had a visitor yesterday. A man named Rafe Cullen. How did you know that? Cullen's been making rounds in the area. Debt collection, he claims. But I've had 3 families report him in the last week, all saying he's using threats and intimidation. Warren's expression hardened. That true here too? He said my sister owed money, $7,000. The sheriff whistled low. That's a substantial debt. I don't even know if it's real. Probably is. Men like Cullen don't waste time on fake debts. Too much work for too little reward. Warren moved to the window, looking out. What exactly did he say? Mara recounted the conversation as best she could. Warren's frown deepened with each detail. And he mentioned your daughter specifically? He asked. Looked at her. Made it clear she was leverage. That's a threat. Against a child. Warren's jaw tightened. That changes things. Can you arrest him? On what charge? Debt collection isn't illegal, and looking at someone isn't a crime. He turned back to her. But threatening a child is. If he comes back, if he makes any explicit threat against your daughter, you send for me immediately. How? We're 2 hours from town. I'll talk to the Fletchers, the Hendersons, the other ranches nearby. Someone's usually close enough to ride for help. He paused. In the meantime, keep that rifle handy, and don't hesitate to use it if Cullen tries anything. The law won't come after me. For defending your home and child from a man who's threatened them? Not from my office. Warren settled his hat back on his head. Where's your girl now? Upstairs. Good. Keep her close until this resolves. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Mrs. Hart, do you know where your sister is? No? Any idea why she'd owe that kind of money? She was always in trouble, always needing help she was too proud to ask for properly. Mara's voice cracked. I tried to keep track of her, but she didn't make it easy. Family rarely does. Warren's expression softened. For what it's worth, I'll ask around. See if anyone's heard of a woman matching her description passing through. Why would you do that? Because if we find your sister, maybe we can figure out what this debt actually is. Information is power, Mrs. Hart, especially against men like Cullen. After the sheriff left, Mara called Lila back downstairs. The girl had been listening from the top of the stairs anyway. Her guilty expression gave her away. Was that about the bad man? Lila asked. Yes, but the sheriff's going to help. How? I don't know yet, but at least we're not alone in this. We were never alone. We have Papa. You're right. Mara pulled her close. We have each other too. Does that mean you're staying, even with the bad man? It means I'm going to try very hard to stay. Trying is all anyone can do, Lila said, echoing her father's words with such perfect precision that Mara had to laugh despite everything. Cole returned as the sun was setting, his face grim. Fletcher hasn't heard of Cullen, he said, stripping off his coat. But his brother-in-law in Silver Creek has. Says Cullen works for a syndicate out of Denver. They loan money to desperate people at terrible rates, then collect using any means necessary. So the debt is probably real, Mara said. Fletcher's brother saw them break a man's hands once for being 2 weeks late on a payment. Cole's voice was flat. These aren't people who negotiate. The sheriff came by. Cole's head snapped up. Warren was here. He'd heard about Rafe, wanted to warn us. What did he say? Mara recounted the conversation. Cole listened, his expression growing darker. So we're on our own, he said finally. Not entirely. Warren said to send for him if Rafe makes explicit threats. By the time anyone gets to town and back with help, we could all be dead. Cole moved to the window, staring out at the darkening landscape. We need a better plan. I'm open to suggestions. He turned back to her. How much do you know about your sister's life before she disappeared? Not enough. She worked in Denver for a while. Saloons, I think. Maybe other places. What kind of other places? The kind women work when they're desperate and out of options. Cole's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, maybe. Or pity. And the money she borrowed? She never told me. Just sent letters sometimes saying she was fine, that she'd found work, that I shouldn't worry. But you did worry. Always. Iris was good at surviving but bad at making choices. Mara sank into a chair, exhaustion pulling at her. She'd get involved with the wrong people, make promises she couldn't keep, then run when it all fell apart. Sounds familiar, Cole muttered. What? Nothing. He ran a hand through his hair. What if we could find her? Your sister. What if we could track her down and get her to deal with this debt herself? She could be anywhere. Or dead. Or she could be close. Denver's not that far. If she worked there, maybe she's still there. That's a big maybe. It's the only maybe we've got. Cole's voice was firm. I could make the trip, ask around, see if anyone knows anything. That would take weeks. Rafe gave us a month. Then I'd better ride fast. He moved closer. Unless you have a better idea? Mara didn't. And the thought of Cole out there, searching for a sister she might never find, felt both desperately hopeful and utterly hopeless at the same time. What about the ranch? Lila? You can handle things here for a few weeks. Can I? You've been handling them. You're just bad at seeing it. He almost smiled. Besides, Lila will keep you in line. I heard that, Lila called from the kitchen, where she was supposed to be staying out of grown-up conversations. You were meant to, Cole called back. That night, they made plans. Cole would leave in 3 days, giving him time to prepare supplies and make sure the ranch was secure enough for Mara and Lila to manage alone. He'd ride to Denver, ask questions, follow any leads he could find about a woman named Iris Vance. What if you can't find her? Mara asked as they sat at the table, maps spread between them. Then I come home and we figure out Plan B. What's Plan B? I shoot Rafe Cullen and bury him somewhere his bosses won't find him. Cole, I'm not joking. His eyes were hard. You think I'll let them take my daughter as collateral for a debt that's not even yours? You think I'll stand by while they threaten my wife? Your wife in name only. My wife, he repeated firmly. That's not nothing, Mara. Maybe it started as convenience, but it's more than that now. Is it? He held her gaze. You tell me. You feel like this is still just a business arrangement? Mara thought about Lila's small hand in hers, about shooting lessons in the morning cold, about conversations over whiskey and the weight of shared secrets. No, she admitted quietly, it doesn't feel like business. Then we protect it, however we have to. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Cole taught Mara how to tend the animals properly, how to split wood without losing fingers, how to tell if the stove was getting too hot or the well water was freezing. He showed her where he kept emergency supplies, where the property lines were, which neighbors were close enough to run to if things went truly wrong. Lila followed them everywhere, absorbing information like a small, determined sponge. If something happens to Papa, she asked Mara at one point, what do we do? Nothing's going to happen to your Papa. But if it does? Mara knelt to her level. Then we take care of each other. We survive. We keep going. Promise? I promise. On the third morning, Cole loaded his saddlebags and prepared to leave. The sun was barely up, the air so cold it hurt to breathe. Lila clung to him, face buried in his coat. Come back, Papa. Always do. He kissed the top of her head. You mind Mara. Do your lessons. Stay out of the loft. I'm always in the loft, which is why I'm telling you to stay out. He set her down gently. I love you, wild thing. Love you too. Then he turned to Mara. For a moment, they just looked at each other. This man she'd married out of desperation, this stranger who'd become something else entirely. Keep her safe, he said quietly. I will. Keep yourself safe too. I'll try. If Cullen comes back, I shoot first, ask questions never. You've told me 100 times. I'm telling you again. He reached out, his calloused hand cupping her cheek briefly. I'll be back as soon as I can. I know. He mounted Rusty, looking down at them, his daughter and his wife standing together in the snow. Something crossed his face, too quick to name. Then he was riding away, and Mara was standing in the cold with Lila's hand in hers, watching him disappear into the vast white landscape. It's just us now, Lila said. Just us, Mara agreed. Are you scared? Terrified. Me too, Lila squeezed her hand. But we'll be okay. Papa believes we'll be okay. How do you know? Because he left. If he didn't believe in you, he wouldn't have gone. The simple logic of it hit Mara hard. Cole had trusted her. Actually trusted her, despite all her failures and fears. She couldn't let him down. The first week alone was harder than Mara expected. The animals needed constant care. The cold was relentless, and every sound at night made her reach for the rifle. She jumped at shadows, saw threats in falling snow, and slept poorly when she slept at all. But she also managed things she'd never thought possible. She kept the fire going, the water flowing, the chickens alive. She taught Lila her lessons every morning, told her stories every night. She even attempted Sarah's recipes from the book, and while most still turned out badly, 1 or 2 were actually edible. You're getting better, Lila said, eating stew that was only slightly burnt. Low bar. Still counts. On the 8th day, riders appeared on the horizon. Mara's heart stopped. She grabbed the rifle, called Lila inside, positioned herself by the window, just like before. But these weren't debt collectors. They were women, 3 of them, riding sturdy horses and carrying baskets. The leader was tall and raw-boned, with gray streaks in her dark hair. She dismounted and called out, Mrs. Hart, I'm Rebecca Fletcher, Tom's wife. Mind if we come in? Mara opened the door cautiously. Mrs. Fletcher. Call me Rebecca. This is Ann Henderson and Mary Walsh. The other 2 women nodded. We heard Cole rode out. Thought you might need some company. I'm managing. I'm sure you are. Rebecca's eyes were kind but sharp. But managing alone is different than managing with help. We brought supplies and gossip. Figured you could use both. They swept in like a warm wind, filling the house with noise and energy. Anne, small and blonde with laugh lines around her eyes, immediately started reorganizing Mara's pantry with cheerful efficiency. Mary, quieter, with strong hands and a gentle voice, began showing Lila how to knit properly. Rebecca took one look at the stew Mara had burning on the stove and took over without asking. "You're trying too hard," she said, adjusting the heat. "Cooking's like everything else out here. Patience matters more than force." "I don't have much patience." "Neither did Sarah when she started. She burned more meals than I can count." Rebecca smiled. "But she learned. So will you." "Everyone keeps comparing me to her." "Can't help it. She was here before you." Rebecca tasted the stew, added salt. "But you're not her, and that's fine. Different doesn't mean worse." Over the next few hours, Mara learned more about frontier life than she had in months. Rebecca taught her how to make bread that actually rose, how to tell good meat from bad, how to preserve food for lean times. Anne showed her shortcuts for washing that didn't destroy clothes. Mary demonstrated how to patch torn fabric in ways that actually held. And they talked, not about the debt or Rafe Cullen or any of the fears keeping Mara awake at night. Just normal things. Whose cow was giving the most milk, which neighbors were feuding over property lines, who was courting whom in Cedar Hollow. "Martha Granger's still spreading poison about you," Anne said cheerfully. "Says you trapped poor Cole with feminine wiles." "I don't even know what feminine wiles are," Mara said. "Neither does Martha. She just likes being mean." Rebecca snorted. "Ignore her. Half the town thinks she's ridiculous anyway. And the other half? Also thinks she's ridiculous but won't say it out loud." Mary's quiet voice held amusement. "You've got more friends than you think, Mara. People remember what it's like being new, being judged." Not everyone was kind. "No," Rebecca agreed. "But the ones who matter are. The rest can go hang." When they finally left, as the sun was setting, Mara felt something she hadn't in months. Hope. Not the desperate, clawing kind. Just the quiet certainty that maybe, possibly, she wasn't as alone as she'd thought. "I like them," Lila announced, eating the bread Rebecca had helped them make. It was actually good, soft inside, crusty outside. Nothing at all like Mara's usual hockey pucks. "Me too." "Think they'll come back?" "I hope so." "Me too." Lila tore off another piece of bread. "I'm glad Papa left now, otherwise we wouldn't have gotten to have lady time." "Lady time?" "That's what Mama used to call it when her friends came over. Just ladies, talking and laughing and teaching each other things." Lila's eyes were distant. "I missed it." Mara's throat tightened. "I missed it too. I didn't even know I did, but I did." That night, Mara slept better than she had since Cole left. The house felt less empty, the dark less threatening. She dreamed of Iris for the first time in months. Not nightmares of her sister lost or hurt, but memories of when they were children, laughing over some shared joke their mother never understood. She woke to someone pounding on the door. Mara grabbed the rifle, heart racing. Dawn was just breaking, pale light seeping through the windows. "Who's there?" she called. "Sheriff Warren? Open up, Mrs. Hart." She opened the door to find Warren looking exhausted, his horse lathered with sweat. "What's wrong?" "Cullen's back. Or his people are. Henderson Ranch was hit last night. They took livestock, burned the barn, left a message." Warren's face was grim. "You need to come to town. Now. It's not safe here alone. We can't leave. Cole's counting on us to... Cole would want you alive more than he'd want his ranch intact." Warren looked past her to where Lila was descending the stairs, eyes wide with fear. "Pack what you need. You've got 10 minutes. I'm not running." "You're not running. You're being smart." His voice softened. "Please, Mrs. Hart. I've seen what these people do. Don't make me see it happen to you and that girl." Mara looked at Lila, at her frightened face and trembling hands. She thought about Cole somewhere between here and Denver, trusting her to keep his daughter safe. She thought about promises made and the difference between courage and stupidity. "Lila, get dressed. Pack a bag with clothes and anything important." "But Papa would want us alive. Go." While Lila packed, Mara threw together supplies with shaking hands. Clothes, food, money from the tin Cole kept hidden, Iris's locket from her room, the rifle, ammunition, Sarah's recipe book for reasons she didn't examine. They were ready in 8 minutes. Warren helped them onto his horse. Lila in front, Mara behind, their bags tied to the saddle. The ride to town was brutal, cold wind tearing at them as the horse galloped through snow. Mara looked back once at the ranch disappearing behind them. She'd promised to protect it, promised to stay. But some promises had to break for more important ones to hold. And keeping Lila safe mattered more than keeping Cole's home intact. She just hoped he'd understand that when he came back. If he came back. Cedar Hollow looked different in winter daylight than it had on Mara's wedding day. Smaller, somehow, the buildings huddled against the cold like animals seeking shelter. Warren took them straight to the boarding house where Mrs. Hadley met them at the door, her face creased with worry. "I heard," she said, pulling Lila inside without ceremony. "Get in here before you freeze." The boarding house was warm, smelling of bread and soap and the particular mustiness of old wood. Mrs. Hadley had a room ready, small but clean, with a window overlooking the main street and a bed big enough for two. "How long do we need to stay?" Mara asked, setting down their bags. "Until it's safe," Warren said from the doorway. "Or until your husband gets back." "The ranch? I'll have Tom Fletcher check on it daily. Make sure nothing's burned or stolen." Warren's expression was sympathetic but firm. "You did the right thing, Mrs. Hart, coming to town." After he left, Mara sank onto the bed, exhaustion and failure crushing down on her in equal measure. "We ran," she said quietly. Lila climbed up beside her. "We survived. Your father trusted me to protect the ranch." "He trusted you to protect me more." The girl's voice was certain. "That's what you did." Mrs. Hadley appeared with hot soup and bread. "Eat, both of you. You look half frozen." The soup was good, better than anything Mara had managed to make. She ate mechanically, tasting nothing, her mind circling the same thoughts over and over. She'd abandoned the ranch, broken her promise, failed again. "Stop it," Mrs. Hadley said, watching her face. "Stop what?" "Whatever you're telling yourself about failing. You got the girl out. That's what matters. Cole's gonna come home to an empty house instead of a dead family. He'll take that trade." The older woman's voice was sharp. "I've been in this territory 30 years, girl. I've seen what men like Cullen do. You made the smart choice." "It doesn't feel smart." "Smart things rarely do. They just feel like surviving." That night, Mara lay awake listening to Lila's breathing, to the unfamiliar sounds of town, dogs barking, someone singing drunk in the street, the wind rattling shutters. She thought about Cole somewhere between here and Denver, searching for a sister who might be dead or disappeared beyond finding. Thought about the ranch sitting empty, vulnerable, all the work they'd done potentially for nothing. Thought about Rafe Cullen and his cold eyes and the threat hanging over them like a blade. Morning brought no answers, just more waiting. Mara tried to keep Lila occupied with lessons, with stories, with anything to distract from the fact that they were trapped in town with nothing to do but worry. On the third day, Rebecca Fletcher appeared at the boarding house. "Heard you were here," she said, coming into their room with her usual no-nonsense energy. "Thought you might need company." "I need to be at the ranch." "You need to be alive." Rebecca sat in the room's only chair. "Tom checked your place this morning. Everything's intact. No signs of trouble." Yet, Rebecca agreed. "But worrying won't change what comes." "Then what will?" "Information. Action, fighting back instead of just hiding." Rebecca leaned forward. "I've been asking around about your sister, about Cullen, about the whole mess." Mara's attention sharpened. "What did you find?" "Not much on your sister, but Cullen, he's been operating in this territory for almost 2 years. Works for a man named Dutch Garrett out of Denver. Garrett runs a whole operation, loans, gambling, probably worse. Cullen's his enforcer." "Enforcer meaning what?" "Meaning he's the one who makes examples of people who don't pay." Rebecca's face was grim. Anne's cousin lived in Silver Creek. She saw what they did to a farmer who couldn't make his payments. They didn't just take his property. They made sure everyone knew what happens when you cross them. "What happened to the farmer?" "He doesn't farm anymore. Can't, with only one good hand left." Lila looked up from her book, eyes wide. Mara shook her head slightly. "Not now." "So we're dealing with people who'll actually follow through on their threats," Mara said. "Yes, but we're also dealing with people who have a pattern, a system." Rebecca pulled out a folded paper. I talked to 5 other families Cullens visited. They all tell the same story. Big debt, impossible terms, threats when they can't pay. But here's the thing, only 2 families actually lost anything. What happened to them? They fought back, tried to run him off with guns and threats of their own. Rebecca met Mara's eyes. The ones who survived were the ones who negotiated, who found ways to pay something, buy time, make themselves more valuable alive than dead. We don't have anything to negotiate with. You have information about your sister. That's what Cullen really wants. Not your money, but her. Find her first and you've got leverage. Cole's looking for her now. Then we hope he finds her before Cullen gets impatient. Rebecca stood. In the meantime, you lay low. Let the sheriff do his job. And if Cullen comes to town, you make sure you're somewhere public where he can't try anything without witnesses. After Rebecca left, Mara felt marginally better. Not hopeful exactly, but less helpless. Information was something. A pattern was something. It wasn't much, but it was more than she'd had. The days crawled past. A week became 10 days, then 2 weeks. No word from Cole. No sign of Cullen. Just waiting. The tension stretching tighter with each passing hour. Lila grew restless, confined to the boarding house and the small yard behind it. She missed 3 legs, missed her room, missed the space to run and explore. When can we go home? She asked for the 100th time. When it's safe. When's that? I don't know, sweetheart. I hate not knowing. Me too. Mrs. Hadley tried to help, giving Lila small tasks around the boarding house, folding linens, helping with cooking, sweeping floors. The girl threw herself into the work with determined energy, but Mara could see the worry underneath, the fear that her father wouldn't come back, that this temporary situation would become permanent. Mara felt the same fear eating at her insides. On the 15th day, a rider came into town. Mara was at the general store with Lila, buying supplies they didn't really need just for something to do, when she heard the commotion outside. Through the window, she saw people gathering, pointing, talking in excited voices. Her heart lurched. Cole. She ran outside, Lila at her heels, pushing through the small crowd. But it wasn't Cole. The rider was younger, maybe 20, with a boyish face and nervous eyes. He was talking to Sheriff Warren in quick, urgent tones. What's happening? Mara asked Rebecca, who'd appeared in the crowd. Rider from Silver Creek says Cullen's men hit another ranch last night, the Morrison place. How bad? Bad enough that Morrison's in the doc's office now. Rebecca's face was pale. They're escalating, getting bolder. Warren caught sight of Mara and pushed through the crowd toward her. Mrs. Hart. A word. He led her away from listening ears, his expression grave. The attacks are following a pattern, he said quietly. Cullen hits families who've refused to cooperate, makes examples of them. And according to this rider, your name came up. Mara's blood went cold. What do you mean? Morrison said one of Cullen's men asked about you specifically, where you were, whether you'd run. Warren's hand rested on his gun. They're looking for you, Mrs. Hart, actively. Then I need to leave town. Lead them away from... You need to stay exactly where you are. In public, surrounded by witnesses. His voice was firm. They won't try anything in broad daylight with the whole town watching, but if you run, if you're alone out there, that's when they'll strike. So I just wait? Like bait in a trap? You wait like a smart woman who knows her limitations. Warren's tone softened slightly. I've sent word to the territorial marshal. Help's coming, but it'll take a week, maybe more. A week where Cullen could show up at any moment. A week where you stay alive by staying smart. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She stood at the window watching the dark street, jumping at every shadow. The rifle was propped against the wall within reach. Her bag was packed, ready to run if needed. Mara? Lila's voice came from the bed. You should rest. I can't. Papa wouldn't want you wearing yourself out worrying. Papa isn't here. The words came out harsher than intended. Silence. Then Lila said quietly, Do you think he's okay? Mara turned from the window. I think your father is the most stubborn man I've ever met, and stubborn men don't give up easily. That's not the same as okay. No, it's not. Mara moved to sit on the bed. But it's what we've got to work with. Lila was quiet for a moment. I used to think Papa could fix anything. When Mama got sick, I thought he'd make her better just by wanting it hard enough. Sometimes wanting isn't enough. I know that now. The girl's voice was small. But I still want him to come back. So do I, sweetheart. So do I. The 17th day brought rain, cold, miserable rain that turned the streets to mud and made everyone irritable. Mara was helping Mrs. Hadley with laundry when the door burst open. Ann Henderson stood there, soaked and breathing hard. "They're here," she gasped. "Cullen's men just rode into town." Mara's world narrowed to a pinpoint. "How many?" "3 that I saw, maybe more. Warren's gathering people at the saloon." Ann grabbed Mara's arm. "He wants you there, somewhere public." The saloon was the biggest building in Cedar Hollow, and by the time Mara arrived with Lila clutching her hand, it was already crowded. Warren had positioned himself at the door, rifle visible, while Tom Fletcher and several other ranchers stood inside, also armed. "They're not getting to you," Warren said when he saw Mara. "Not without going through all of us." "I can't ask you to, but—" "You're not asking, we're doing." Rebecca appeared at her side. "You're one of us now. That means something." The wait was agonizing. Minutes stretched into an hour, then 2. The tension in the saloon was thick enough to choke on. Lila pressed against Mara's side, trying to be brave and failing. Then the door opened. Rafe Cullen walked in like he owned the place. He was alone, which somehow made him more threatening rather than less. His eyes scanned the room, taking in the armed men, the protective circle around Mara. He smiled. "Quite the welcoming committee," he said pleasantly. "I'm flattered." "State your business and leave," Warren said, hand on his gun. "My business is with Mrs. Hart. Private business." "Nothing's private when it involves threats against families," Tom Fletcher said, stepping forward. "We know what you did to Morrison." "Morrison made poor choices. I'm simply helping people understand the consequences of their decisions." Rafe's gaze found Mara. "Mrs. Hart has a decision to make too. I'm here to discuss her options." "She's got nothing to say to you," Rebecca snapped. "I think she does. The debt hasn't disappeared just because she's hiding in town." Rafe moved closer, and several men shifted to block his path. $7,000, Mrs. Hart, plus 3 weeks' interest. Call it $7,500 now." "I don't have it." "Then we discuss alternatives. Your ranch, perhaps. I'm sure it's worth something." "That ranch isn't hers to give," Warren said. "It belongs to her husband, who conveniently isn't here, making it her responsibility." Rafe's smile widened. "Or we could discuss other assets. You have a lovely stepdaughter, Mrs. Hart. I'm sure there are families who'd pay well for—" Cole's voice cut through the room like a gunshot. "Finish that sentence and you're a dead man." Every head turned. Cole stood in the doorway, muddy and exhausted, with a rifle pointed directly at Rafe's chest. Behind him, rain poured down, turning the street into a river. "Papa!" Lila broke free from Mara and ran to him. Cole didn't lower the rifle, but his free arm wrapped around his daughter. His eyes never left Rafe's face. "You threatened my child," Cole said, voice deadly calm. "That was a mistake." "Mr. Hart, I presume. We haven't been formally introduced." Rafe seemed unbothered by the weapon aimed at him. "I'm here on legitimate business. There's nothing legitimate about threatening a 7-year-old girl. I was simply exploring options. You were signing your death warrant." Cole's finger moved to the trigger. "Leave. Now. Before I decide that killing you is worth the consequences. Your wife owes—" "I don't care what she owes. I don't care who sent you or what you think you're owed." Cole's voice dropped even lower, more dangerous. "You come near my family again, and there won't be enough of you left to bury. Understand?" Something flickered in Rafe's eyes. Not quite fear, but recognition, the understanding that Cole meant every word. "This isn't over," Rafe said. "Yeah, it is." Cole cocked the rifle. 1. Rafe's confidence cracked slightly. 2. You wouldn't dare, not with witnesses. 3. Rafe moved. Not quickly, but he moved, backing toward the door with hands slightly raised. "We'll be in touch," he said, trying to salvage some dignity. "My employers don't forget debts." Your employers can go to hell. Cole followed him to the door, rifle still raised. And if I see you on my property, if I hear you've been anywhere near my family, I'll hunt you down and gut you like a deer. That's a promise. Rafe left. The sound of hoofbeats faded into the rain. Cole finally lowered the rifle, his whole body sagging with exhaustion. Papa, you came back, Lila said, still clinging to him. Always said I would. He looked over her head at Mara. You okay? Mara couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. She just nodded. Good. Cole handed the rifle to Warren. Someone watch the street. Make sure he's actually gone. Then his legs seemed to give out. He sat hard in the nearest chair, Lila still in his arms. Mara moved to him, kneeling in the muddy water he'd tracked in. Did you find her? Iris? No. His voice was hoarse. But I found people who knew her, people who explained exactly what kind of trouble she was in. How bad? Bad enough that 7,000 is probably a bargain compared to what she actually owes. He met her eyes. Your sister wasn't just borrowing money, Mara. She was working for them. Smuggling, running cons, maybe worse. When she disappeared, she took something that belonged to them. Something valuable. What? They wouldn't say. But whatever it was, it's worth more than the money. Cole's expression was grim. That's why Cullen's pushing so hard. He's not just collecting a debt. He's trying to recover stolen property. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. So they think I have it, or know where it is. Yes, but I don't. I haven't heard from Iris in over a year. I don't know what she took or where she went. I believe you, but they don't. Cole shifted Lila to his other arm. We need to find her, Mara. It's the only way this ends without someone dying. How? You just spent 2 weeks looking, and I got a lead. A woman in Denver who might know where Iris went, but she won't talk to me. She'll only talk to family. Mara's heart sank. You want me to go to Denver? I want us to go. All of us. We can't stay here waiting for Cullen to come back with more men and less patience. Cole looked around the room, at the people who'd gathered to protect them. We leave tonight, quiet, before he realizes we're gone. That's running, Mara said. That's surviving long enough to fight on our terms instead of his. Cole's jaw was set. Unless you've got a better idea? She didn't. Warren stepped forward. I'll organize a distraction. Make it look like you're staying put while you slip out the back. We'll need horses, supplies, Tom Fletcher said. I can have them ready in an hour. It's dangerous, Rebecca warned. Winter travel, especially with a child. Staying is more dangerous, Cole interrupted. At least moving gives us a chance. The next hour was chaos. People scattered to gather supplies, spread false information, create the appearance of normal activity while actually preparing for departure. Mrs. Hadley packed food that wouldn't spoil, warm clothes, blankets. Tom appeared with 3 horses, sturdy animals used to mountain travel. Anne brought medicine, matches, everything she could think of that might be needed. Mara repacked their bags, her hands shaking with a mixture of fear and something else. Not quite hope, more like desperate determination. Are you scared? Lila asked, watching her. Yes. Me too, but Papa's here now. That helps. It does, Mara agreed, more than she wanted to admit. When everything was ready, when darkness had fallen and the rain was coming down hard enough to cover their movements, they slipped out the back of the boarding house. Cole led the way, moving through alleys and side streets, avoiding the main road where Cullen's men might be watching. They reached the edge of town where Tom waited with the horses. This one's gentle, he said, helping Lila onto a gray mare. She'll take care of you. Thank you, Mara said to all of them. Tom, Rebecca, Anne, Warren, Mrs. Hadley, for everything. Just come back alive, Rebecca said, and bring your sister if you find her. I'd like to give her a piece of my mind. Get that chance first, Mara said. They rode out into the rain, leaving Cedar Hollow behind. The journey to Denver took 6 days of brutal travel. They rode hard, stopped only when necessary, pushed through exhaustion and cold and the constant fear of being followed. Cole was relentless, driving them forward even when Mara wanted to beg for rest. We stopped for too long and they'll catch up, he said every time she suggested making camp before dark. Lila's exhausted. Lila's alive. That's what matters. The girl never complained, though Mara could see the toll it took. She fell asleep in the saddle more than once, had to be caught before she tumbled off. At night, when they finally did stop, she collapsed into sleep so deep that not even nightmares could wake her. On the fourth night, camped in a narrow canyon that offered some shelter from the wind, Cole and Mara sat by the fire while Lila slept between them. "I'm sorry," Mara said quietly. "For what?" "All of it. Bringing this to your door, putting Lila in danger, forcing you to run from your own home. You didn't force anything. I chose." He poked at the fire. "Besides, you're not the one who created this mess. Your sister did. My sister who I should have been watching, who I should have protected." "From what? From herself?" Cole shook his head. "You can't save people from their own choices, Mara. I tried that with Sarah. Thought if I just worked hard enough, made the ranch successful enough, she'd be happy. But happiness doesn't work that way." "Was she really that unhappy?" "Some days. Other days she was fine. That's what made it hard. The not knowing which version I'd get." He stared into the flames. "The day she died, we'd fought that morning, about leaving. She wanted to go back east, find a doctor, start over somewhere easier. I said no. Said we'd invested too much to give up now. Colt, I watched her die thinking I'd trapped her in a life she hated, that my stubbornness killed her." His voice cracked. "And then you showed up. Another woman I was trapping, just in a different way. You didn't trap me. I chose this too. Out of desperation. Maybe at first, but not anymore." Mara looked at him across the fire. "I could have left. Could have run when Rafe first showed up. But I stayed because it stopped feeling like a trap. Started feeling like something worth fighting for." "Even with all this?" He gestured at their makeshift camp, at the danger chasing them. "Especially with all this. Fighting together is better than surviving alone." Cole met her eyes, and something passed between them. Understanding, maybe, or recognition of something that had been building since that first awkward wedding day. "When this is over," he said quietly, "when we found your sister and dealt with Cullen and can go home, I want to start again." "What do you mean?" "I mean no more comparing you to Sarah, no more half measures, no more marriage in name only." He paused. "I mean really try. Build something real instead of just surviving." Mara's heart was beating too fast. "What if I keep failing? Keep burning dinner and ruining shirts and making mistakes?" "Then we'll fail together. Make mistakes together." He almost smiled. "I'm not asking for perfect, Mara. I'm just asking for real." "I can do real." "Good." He looked down at Lila sleeping between them. "She needs real. We all do." They reached Denver on the 6th day, both of them swaying with exhaustion, Lila barely conscious. The city was overwhelming after weeks in the wilderness. Noise, crowds, buildings stacked impossibly high, the smell of smoke and horses and too many people in too small a space. Cole led them to a boarding house on the outskirts, paid for a room with money he probably couldn't spare, and collapsed on the bed without bothering to remove his boots. "Sleep," he mumbled. "Find the contact tomorrow." Mara got Lila cleaned up and into bed, then lay down herself, still fully dressed, too tired to care about propriety or comfort. She was asleep before her head hit the pillow. Morning brought clarity and renewed fear. Cole was already up, had been for hours based on the coffee he'd somehow acquired and the notes he'd been making. "The woman who knew Iris works at a saloon called the Silver Rose," he said when Mara woke. "She'll be there tonight." "Just her? Or will Cullen's people be watching?" "Probably both." He set down his cup. "Which is why you're going alone." "What?" "She'll only talk to family, remember? And if I'm there, it looks like intimidation, like I'm forcing you." Cole's logic was sound even if Mara hated it. "You go in, talk to her, find out what she knows. I'll be outside with Lila. Anything goes wrong, you run. I'll handle the rest." "I don't like this plan." "Neither do I, but it's what we've got." That evening, Mara walked into the Silver Rose with her heart in her throat. The saloon was exactly what she expected. Dimly lit, smelling of whiskey and sweat, full of men who looked at her with eyes that made her skin crawl. The woman behind the bar was in her 30s, with red hair and a face that might have been beautiful before life wore it down. "I'm looking for someone," Mara said quietly. "Someone who knew Iris Vance." The woman's expression didn't change, but her hand stilled on the glass she was wiping. Don't know anyone by that name. Please, I'm her sister. I just need to know if she's alive. Something flickered across the woman's face. Back room, 5 minutes. Come alone, or don't come at all. Mara waited, counting the seconds, then slipped through the door the woman had indicated. The back room was small and cramped, filled with storage crates and the sour smell of old beer. The red-haired woman was waiting. You really her sister? Yes. You look like her. Same eyes. The woman crossed her arms. I'm Nora. Iris and I worked together here for a while. Where is she now? If I knew that, I'd tell Dutch Garrett and collect the reward he's offering. Nora's expression was hard. Your sister screwed over some dangerous people, and then she disappeared with something that didn't belong to her. What did she take? Records, ledgers, proof of everything Garrett's been doing, the loans, the violence, the people he's had killed. Nora leaned against a crate. She said she was going to use it to get free, to start over somewhere he couldn't reach her. But she didn't? She tried, but men like Garrett don't let go that easy. Nora pulled out a folded paper. She left this with me. Said if anything happened to her, if anyone came asking, I should give it to her family. Mara took the paper with shaking hands. It was a letter, written in Iris's familiar handwriting. Mara, if you're reading this, I'm either dead or worse. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. The money I borrowed in your name, the trouble I brought to your door, the promises I couldn't keep. I thought I could fix it, thought I was smart enough to play their game and win. I was wrong. The ledgers are hidden. I won't tell you where because knowing would put you in danger. But if you need leverage, if you need protection, tell them this. I sent copies to the territorial marshal and to a newspaper man in San Francisco. If anything happens to me or my family, those copies go public. It's not much, but it's something. I love you. I'm sorry. Be braver than I was. Love, Iris. Mara read it twice, her vision blurring with tears. She's dead, isn't she? She asked quietly. I don't know. She disappeared 3 months ago. No one's seen her since. Nora's voice was surprisingly gentle. But if she's alive, she's running. And if she's running, she won't stop. That's who Iris was. Always moving, always one step ahead, always thinking the next town would be different. The ledgers she mentioned, do you know where they are? No, and I wouldn't tell you if I did. Nora moved toward the door. Take my advice. Use that letter. Tell Garrett's people that Iris set up a dead man's switch. That if anything happens to you, those ledgers go public. It's not perfect protection, but it's something. Will they believe me? Probably not. But they might believe it enough to back off. Nora opened the door. Now get out of here before someone notices you've been here too long. Mara left through the back exit, clutching Iris's letter like a lifeline. Cole was waiting in the alley with Lila, his face tight with worry that eased slightly when he saw her. You're okay. I'm okay. Mara showed him the letter, but my sister might not be. He read it quickly, expression darkening. This is leverage, real leverage. If they believe it, we make them believe it. Cole folded the letter carefully. Tomorrow we find Cullen. We give him this. We make the deal. And if he doesn't accept? Cole's hand moved to his gun. Then we solve this a different way. But that night, in the boarding house room with Lila asleep and the city noise filtering through thin walls, Mara finally let herself cry. For Iris, who might be dead. For the mess they were in. For the fear that had been her constant companion for so long. Cole sat beside her on the bed, his arm around her shoulders, saying nothing, just being there. Being solid and real and present in a way that made her feel less alone than she had in years. I'm tired of running, she said eventually. I know. I'm tired of being scared. I know that too. I want to go home, to the ranch, to our life. She looked up at him. Is that stupid? Wanting something we might not get to keep? No. His voice was rough. It's hope. That's not stupid. That's human. What if we can't fix this? Then we tried. That's all anyone can do. He pulled her closer. Tomorrow, we make the deal. We use Iris's leverage. We bet everything on a bluff. And if it doesn't work, then we run again. Keep running until we're safe, or until I kill everyone who's trying to hurt us. He said it calmly, like discussing the weather. Whatever it takes. Mara leaned into him, borrowing his strength because hers was running out. Tomorrow they'd face Rafe Cullen and Dutch Garrett and make a deal that could save them or destroy them. But tonight, she just needed to not be alone. Cole? Yeah? Thank you for coming back, for fighting, for all of it. You're my wife. That's what husbands do. Is it? He was quiet for a moment, then, it's what this husband does for this wife, for our daughter. Our daughter. Not his. Ours. Mara fell asleep with those words warming something deep in her chest, giving her just enough hope to face whatever tomorrow brought. Morning came with the sound of wagon wheels on cobblestone and voices calling prices in the street below. Mara woke to find Cole already dressed, checking his rifle by the window. Cullen's staying at the Grand Hotel, he said without turning. I asked around last night while you were sleeping. He's there with 2 of his men. How did you find out? Paid a stable boy to keep his ears open. Cole set the rifle down. We go at noon, public place, lots of witnesses. He won't try anything obvious. And if he does, then I shoot him and we run. He said it like he was discussing breakfast plans. Lila stirred on the bed, rubbing her eyes. Are we going home today? Maybe, sweetheart, Mara said, moving to help her dress. If things go well. What if they don't go well? Then we keep trying until they do. The Grand Hotel was the fanciest building Mara had ever entered. Marble floors, chandeliers that probably cost more than the entire Hart Ranch, furniture that looked too expensive to actually sit on. She felt out of place in her worn traveling dress, conscious of the stares from well-dressed guests who clearly didn't think she belonged. Cole didn't seem to notice or care. He walked up to the front desk with Lila's hand in his and asked for Rafe Cullen's room number like he had every right to be there. The clerk looked uncertain. Mr. Cullen isn't receiving visitors. He'll see us. Cole's voice had that edge that meant argument was pointless. The clerk swallowed. 3rd floor, room 12. They climbed the stairs, Mara's heart pounding harder with each step. This was it. The moment where everything either got better or fell completely apart. Cole knocked on the door of room 12. It opened to reveal not Rafe, but a man Mara had never seen before. He was older, maybe 50, with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. Expensive suit, gold watch chain, eyes that assessed them in a single glance and found them wanting. Mr. Hart, I presume, his man said, and Mrs. Hart. Do come in. The room was a suite, larger than the entire boarding house room they'd been sharing. Rafe stood by the window, looking relaxed. 2 other men, hard-faced and armed, stood near the door. The silver-haired man settled into a chair like a king on a throne. I'm Dutch Garrett. I believe you have something that belongs to me. No, Cole said flatly. But we have information about where it might be. Information isn't what I asked for. It's what you're getting. Cole positioned himself between Garrett and Lila. Your property, the ledgers Iris Vance took. We don't have them, but we know what she did with them. Garrett's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. I'm listening. Mara pulled out Iris's letter. My sister made copies, sent them to people who'll make them public if anything happens to her, or to her family. Let me see that. Cole took the letter from Mara and handed it over. Garrett read it slowly, his face giving nothing away. This could be a bluff, he said finally. It could be, Cole agreed. You want to test it? Try hurting us and see what happens? Or I could simply eliminate the threat, kill you all, find the sister, recover the ledgers before they're released. You could try. Cole's hand moved closer to his gun. But you'd have to get through me first. And even if you did, my friends know where we are. They've got instructions to send word if we don't come back. The territorial marshal, the newspapers, everyone you're trying to hide from gets copies. It was a bluff built on a bluff, and Mara held her breath waiting to see if Garrett would call it. The older man studied them for a long moment. Then he smiled, and it was somehow worse than if he'd threatened them. You're either very brave or very stupid, he said. I haven't decided which. Does it matter? Cole asked. Not particularly. Garrett tossed the letter onto the table. Here's my counteroffer. The debt is forgiven, all of it. You walk away, I never hear from you again, and we all pretend this unpleasantness never happened. In exchange for what? Nothing. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. Garrett's smile widened. I'm a businessman, Mr. Hart, and sometimes the cost of pursuing a debt exceeds its value. Your wife's sister has made this particular collection more trouble than it's worth. But just like that? Mara couldn't keep the suspicion out of her voice. You just forgive $7,000? I'm forgiving the inconvenience of dealing with stubborn frontier people who might actually be telling the truth about insurance policies. Garrett stood. Take the deal, Mrs. Hart. Walk away. Live your simple life in the mountains and forget you ever heard my name. And if we don't? Then I'll assume you're bluffing, and I'll send Cullen and his men to test that assumption. His voice dropped, losing all pretense of pleasantness. They won't be gentle, they won't be quick, and when they're done, there won't be enough left of you to bury. Lila whimpered, pressing closer to Cole's leg. You threaten my daughter again, Cole said quietly, and deal or no deal, I'll kill you where you stand. Noted. Garrett moved toward the door, clearly done with the conversation. You have until tomorrow to leave Denver. After that, the offer expires and we solve this the unpleasant way. We'll be gone today, Cole said. Excellent. Rafe, see them out. Cullen walked them to the door, his expression unreadable. In the hallway, away from Garrett's hearing, he leaned close to Mara. Your sister's alive, he said quietly. Last anyone saw her, she was headed west. California, maybe. Somewhere far from here. Why are you telling me this? Because Garrett doesn't know, and I'd like to keep it that way. Man finds out she's still breathing, he'll never stop looking. Cullen straightened. Take the deal. Forget about Iris. She made her choices. She's my sister, and you've got a daughter now. Choose which one matters more. He opened the door. Get out of Denver, Mrs. Hart. Don't come back. They left the hotel in silence, walking until they were several blocks away before Cole finally stopped in an alley. We got it, he said, voice shaking slightly. We actually got it. He let us go, Mara said. Just like that. Because killing us was more expensive than forgiveness. Cole pulled Lila into his arms. Or because he's planning something else. Either way, we take the win and run. What about Iris? What about her? Cole's voice was hard. She's alive. She's free. That's more than we had yesterday. But she's still out there, still running. And that's her choice. Her consequences. He met Mara's eyes. I'm sorry. I know she's your sister. But we can't save her. We can barely save ourselves. He was right. Mara knew he was right. But it still felt like abandonment. Like giving up. Like one more promise broken. We need to leave, Cole said. Now, before Garrett changes his mind. They were packed and riding out of Denver within 2 hours. The city disappeared behind them as they pushed north, back toward Cedar Hollow, back toward home. The journey felt different this time. Not desperate flight, but something closer to victory. Exhausted, fragile victory, but victory nonetheless. They rode hard for 3 days, stopping only when absolutely necessary. Lila bore it better this time, maybe because they were heading home instead of running into uncertainty. On the third night, camped in the same canyon they'd used on the way down, she fell asleep quickly, worn out, but safe. Mara sat by the fire, staring into the flames, thinking about Iris somewhere in California or beyond. Alive. Free. Gone. You did what you could, Cole said quietly. I did nothing. I just gave up. You chose to live. To protect Lila. To come home. He poked at the fire. That's not nothing. It feels like nothing. Feels and is are different. Cole was quiet for a moment. Sarah used to have a sister back east. Haven't thought about her in years. They wrote letters, made promises to visit that never happened. When Sarah died, I sent word. The sister never even wrote back. I'm sorry. Point is, family's complicated. Sometimes the people we're born to aren't the ones we build our lives with. He looked at Lila sleeping between them. Sometimes the family we choose matters more than the one we started with. Is that what we are? Chosen family? We're something. Still figuring out what exactly. He met her eyes across the fire. But yeah, I'm choosing you, choosing this, however messy it is. Mara felt that crack in her chest split wide open. Even after all this? The debt, the danger, the running? Especially after all that. Easy things don't teach you what people are made of. Hard things do. Cole's expression softened. And you're made of tougher stuff than I gave you credit for. I'm made of panic and improvisation. Same thing as tough most days. They reached Cedar Hollow on the 5th day, riding in as the sun was setting. The town looked exactly the same, small, weather-beaten, clinging to the mountainside like it was too stubborn to blow away. But it felt different to Mara, less like a place she'd been trapped, and more like somewhere she'd chosen. Sheriff Warren met them at the edge of town, relief clear on his weathered face. Heard you were coming back. Garrett's men pulled out 2 days ago. Word spread fast that the debt was settled. He looked them over. You all right? Alive, Cole said. That's good enough. The ranch? Tom's been keeping an eye on it. Few shingles blown off in a storm, but nothing major. Warren's expression turned serious. You planning to stay? Why wouldn't we? Because some folks might not be too friendly about the trouble you brought to the area. Let them be unfriendly, Cole said. We're staying. They stayed in town that night, at Mrs. Hadley's boarding house, too exhausted to make the final ride to the ranch. Rebecca and Anne appeared with food and questions and relief so obvious it made Mara's throat tight. You did it, Rebecca said, pulling Mara into a hug that smelled like bread and wood smoke. You actually did it. We survived, Mara corrected. That's not the same as winning. Out here it is. Anne was hugging Lila, who was tolerating it with good grace. Surviving's the only win that matters. That night, lying in a real bed with Lila curled against her side, Mara let herself feel it. Relief, exhaustion, the bone-deep knowledge that they'd made it through. Not unscathed, not unchanged, but alive and together and heading home. Mara? Lila's voice was sleepy. Are we safe now? I think so, sweetheart. Good. I'm tired of being scared. Me too. When we get home, can we plant the garden, like you and Mama used to talk about? Mara's breath caught. You remember that? I remember lots of things. You and Mama in the garden, planning what to plant. She showed you where things go. Lila yawned. I want to help this time. Then we'll plant it together, all 3 of us. All 4, Papa too. He pretends he doesn't care about gardens, but he does. How do you know? Because he kept Mama's book, and he gave it to you. Lila's voice was getting softer, sleep pulling her under. That means he wants the garden too. He just doesn't say it. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes. Get some sleep, Mara whispered. Tomorrow we go home for real. They reached the ranch the next afternoon. It looked smaller than Mara remembered, more weathered, the barn sagging slightly on one side. But it also looked like home, like a place worth fighting for. Cole dismounted and stood for a moment, just looking at it. Thought we might not see it again, he said quietly. But we did. Yeah, we did. He helped Lila down, then offered his hand to Mara. She took it, letting him help her to the ground, even though she didn't need the assistance. His hand was warm and calloused and steady, and she found herself not wanting to let go. The house was cold and dusty, smelling of disuse, but it was intact, nothing stolen, nothing destroyed, just waiting for them to come back and fill it with life again. I'll get the fire going, Cole said. You two see what needs doing. What needed doing was everything: sweeping, airing out bedding, checking supplies, making sure the animals Tom had been tending were actually all right. Mara threw herself into the work, Lila helping with enthusiasm, if not always effectiveness. By evening, the house was warm again. Not clean, not perfect, but lived in. Theirs. Cole made dinner, simple beans and bacon, nothing fancy. And they ate together at the table like a normal family, like people who hadn't just spent weeks running from criminals and making deals with dangerous men. Tomorrow, we start fixing what broke, Cole said. Roof needs patching, fence needs mending, 100 other things. Tomorrow I'm sleeping until noon, Lila declared. You're 7, you don't get to sleep until noon. Why not? Because I said so. That's not a reason. It's the only reason you're getting. But Cole was smiling, and Lila was grinning, and Mara felt something in her chest unclench for the first time in months. This. This was what she'd been fighting for. Not perfection, not even safety, really, just this. Sitting at a worn table with people who'd chosen each other, eating simple food and arguing about bedtimes and planning for tomorrow like tomorrow was guaranteed. That night, after Lila was asleep, Mara found Cole on the porch, staring out at the mountains. "Can't sleep?" she asked. "Never could." He glanced at her. "You?" "Too much in my head." "About Iris?" "About everything." Mara leaned against the porch railing. "About how we got here. About what happens next. What do you want to happen next?" It was the question she'd been avoiding thinking about too hard. In the crisis, in the running and fighting and surviving, there'd been no time for wants, only needs, only the next step and the one after that. But now, with the crisis over and time stretching ahead like an open road, the question demanded an answer. "I want to stay," Mara said quietly. "Really stay. Not because I have nowhere else to go, but because this is where I want to be. With us? With you. With Lila. With this life we're building." She turned to face him. "If you'll have me. For real this time. Not out of necessity, but because you want to." Cole was quiet for a long moment. "You remember our wedding day?" "Hard to forget. I stood there thinking I was making a deal, trading stability for labor. Nothing more complicated than that." He moved closer. "And then Lila called you beautiful, and something in your face just broke open. Like you'd never heard anything kind in your life." "I hadn't, not in a long time. Made me wonder what kind of life you'd had. What kind of person survives that and still tries?" Eva reached out, his hand cupping her face like he had the day he left for Denver. "Took me weeks to see it, months to admit it. But somewhere between the burned dinners and the rifle lessons and watching you refuse to give up no matter how hard things got, I stopped seeing you as a deal I'd made." "What did you start seeing?" "Someone worth keeping, someone worth fighting for." His thumb brushed her cheek. "Someone I wanted, not needed, wanted. There's a difference." Mara's breath caught. "Cole, I'm not good with words, never have been, but I need you to know. This isn't obligation anymore. This isn't me being loyal or stubborn or whatever else you've been telling yourself." His voice dropped. "This is me choosing you, every day, however many days we get. Even when I fail. Especially then. Failing means trying. Trying means you care enough to risk it." He leaned closer. "So yeah, even when you fail. Even when you burn dinner and ruin my shirts and make me want to tear my hair out. I'm choosing you." "Choosing you too," Mara whispered. "I have been for a while. I just didn't know how to say it." "Don't need to say it, just need to stay." "I'm staying." "Good." He kissed her then, properly this time. Not the brief formal touch from their wedding, but something real. Something that tasted like promises and possibilities, and the kind of future you had to fight for to earn. When they pulled apart, Mara was crying. Not from sadness, but from the sheer relief of finally, landing somewhere she wanted to be. "We should probably do this right," Cole said, voice rough. "Get married again, for real this time. Not some desperate arrangement, but actual vows, we mean." "When?" "Spring, when the snow clears and the garden's planted and we've had time to breathe." He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Give you time to learn to cook something that won't poison the guests." "I can cook some things." "Mara, love, you really can't." Love. He'd called her love. Casual as breathing, like the word belonged there. "I'll get better," she said. "I know you will. You get better at everything. Just slower than most people." Is that supposed to be a compliment? It's the truth, which is better than a compliment. He pulled her close, and she went willingly, letting herself be held. "We'll figure it out, all of it, together. Promise?" "I don't make promises I can't keep." They stood there on the porch, wrapped in each other and the cold mountain air, while above them stars scattered across the sky like spilled salt. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm that was part recovery, part rebuilding, part learning how to be a family instead of just people surviving together. Cole worked on the ranch with renewed energy, fixing everything that had broken or worn during their absence. Mara threw herself into making the house a home. Not like Sarah's home, but something new, something theirs, She planted herbs in pots on the windowsill since the ground was still frozen. Started experimenting with recipes from Sarah's book, failing less often than she used to. Learned that if she paid attention and didn't rush, she could actually make bread that was edible. Lila flourished. Without the constant fear hanging over them, she became louder, bolder, more herself. She spent hours in the barn with three legs, helped Mara in the kitchen, followed Cole around asking endless questions about how everything worked. "She's more like you than Sarah," Cole observed one evening, watching Lila attempt to braid Mara's hair for the 50th time. "How so?" "Stubborn, asks too many questions, refuses to give up even when she should probably quit." He smiled. "It's a compliment." "Doesn't sound like one. Because you don't see yourself clearly." He moved closer, fixing a section of braid Lila had mangled. "You think you're just surviving, but you're building, creating something from nothing. That takes vision Sarah never had. Sarah built this place with you. Sarah endured this place. There's a difference." His voice was gentle. "She tried. I'm not saying she didn't try, but her heart was never in it. Yours is." Mara thought about that later, lying in bed listening to the house settle. About the difference between enduring and building, between surviving and actually living. She'd spent so long just trying to make it through each day that she'd forgotten what it felt like to want more, to reach for something beyond not dying. But here, in this half-broken ranch with this stubborn man and his fierce daughter, she was learning again, learning to want, learning to hope, learning that sometimes the life you fall into by accident is the one you were meant to find all along. Spring came slowly, the snow melting in patches, revealing frozen ground that would need weeks to thaw before planting could start. But even half-frozen, the land felt alive with possibility. "There," Lila said one morning in early April, pointing at a patch of dirt near the house. "That's where Mama's garden was. Can we start there?" "Ground's still too hard," Cole said. "Then we'll wait." Lila looked up at Mara. "But when it's ready, we'll plant it together, right?" "Right," Mara agreed. They planted the garden in late April, all three of them working the soil until Mara's back ached and her hands were black with dirt. They used Sarah's notes but made their own choices too. More herbs than Sarah had planted, fewer flowers, practical things they could eat or use. "Mama would have hated this," Lila said, surveying their work. "She liked pretty things. This is all vegetables." "We can add flowers next year," Mara said, "if the vegetables work first." "That's practical." Mama wasn't practical. Lila didn't sound sad, just observant. "I think I like practical better." Cole caught Mara's eye over Lila's head and smiled. The wedding happened on a Saturday in May, when the mountains were green and the sky was impossible blue. Not in the church this time. That had been Sarah's place, and Mara wanted something different. They held it at the ranch, in the yard between the house and the barn, with wildflowers in Lila's hair, and everyone who'd helped them gathered around. Rebecca and Tom, Anne and her husband, Mary Walsh and her family, Sheriff Warren, Mrs. Hadley, even a few people from town who'd decided that maybe Mara Hart wasn't so bad after all. The ceremony was simple. No fancy dress this time, just Mara's best clothes and Cole in a clean shirt that actually fit. No formal reverend. Warren had gotten himself certified to perform marriages specifically for this occasion. "Do you, Cole William Hart, take Mara Elizabeth Vance to be your wife? To build a life with? To fight alongside? To choose every day for however many days you get?" "I do." "Do you, Mara Elizabeth Vance, take Cole William Hart to be your husband? To build a life with? To fight alongside? To choose every day for however many days you get?" Mara looked at Cole, at his weathered face and steady eyes, and the hands that had held her through the worst of it. "I do." "Then by the authority vested in me by the Montana Territory and common sense, I pronounce you husband and wife. Again, but better this time." Warren grinned. "You may kiss your bride. Like you actually mean it." Cole pulled her close and kissed her thoroughly, to the cheers and catcalls of their friends. When they broke apart, Mara was laughing, tears streaming down her face, feeling more real than she had in years. "Told you," Lila announced to anyone who'd listen. "She's beautiful. That's my mama." The celebration lasted into the evening. Food that Mara hadn't cooked, which everyone was grateful for. Music from Tom's fiddle. stories and laughter, and the particular warmth that came from surviving something together. As the sun set, painting the mountains gold and purple, Cole found Mara standing apart from the party, looking out at the land they'd fought to keep. "Thinking about your sister?" he asked. "A little, wondering if she's okay, if she found what she was looking for. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't." Cole stood beside her. "Either way, it's her path, not yours. I know, doesn't make it easier. Nothing worth doing is easy. That's what makes it worth doing." He took her hand. "You gave her a gift, you know. When we made that deal with Garrett, you bought her freedom with your courage. I bought it with a bluff. Same thing sometimes." He squeezed her hand. "She's alive. She's free. That's more than you had before. Maybe it's enough." Mara thought about that. About Iris somewhere out west, running or settled or maybe just living. About the sister she'd spent years trying to save, only to realize that some people could only save themselves. "It has to be enough," she said finally. "Because it's all I've got." "Not all. You've got this." Cole gestured at the ranch, the people gathered in their yard, the life they were building from pieces and promises. "You've got us." "Yeah, I do." Mara turned to face him. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For choosing me. For building this with me even when I had no idea what I was doing. Still don't most days." "No," she agreed. "But neither do you. We're both just figuring it out as we go." "That's marriage," Cole said. "Making it up together and hoping it works." From the yard, Lila called out, "Mama, Papa, Rebecca says you have to dance. It's traditional." Mara looked at Cole. "Can you dance?" "Absolutely not." "Good. Neither can I." They danced anyway, stumbling through steps neither of them knew while their friends laughed and cheered. Lila wedged herself between them, insisting on being part of it, and they ended up in a three-person tangle that was more shuffling than dancing but somehow felt right. This was family, not perfect, not even particularly graceful, just real. Messy and honest and built from choices instead of obligation. The party wound down as the stars came out. People headed home, calling out congratulations and well wishes. Soon it was just the three of them, Cole and Mara and Lila, standing in their yard under a sky full of stars. "Bed," Cole said to Lila. "Tomorrow comes early." "Can I stay up a little longer?" "No." "Please?" "No." "You're mean." "I'm practical. Your mama likes practical." Lila looked at Mara for support and found none. "Fine, but I want a story." "You always want a story," Mara said, but she was already heading inside. Later, after Lila was asleep with 3 legs curled at the foot of her bed, despite being an outdoor cat, Mara and Cole stood on the porch in comfortable silence. "Think we'll make it?" Mara asked. "Long term?" "Make it to what?" "I don't know. Old age, grandchildren, whatever comes next." Cole considered this. "I think we'll try, and trying's gotten us this far." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." He pulled her close. "We'll fail sometimes, fight sometimes, make mistakes and have to fix them. But we'll do it together. That's more than a lot of people get." Mara leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. "I used to think I needed to be perfect, to have all the answers, to never make mistakes." "What changed?" "You, Lila, this place." She looked up at the stars. "I learned that perfect doesn't exist, but real does. And real is harder, but better." That's wisdom right there. That's survival. There's a difference. Not much of one out here. They stood together while the night deepened around them, 2 imperfect people who'd chosen each other and were choosing each other still. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, broken fences, burned dinners, 100 small failures and occasional victories. But they'd face it together, building a life from whatever materials they had, making it up as they went. And somehow, impossibly, that was enough. Mara thought about the girl she'd been when she first arrived in Cedar Hollow, desperate, afraid, convinced she had nothing to offer. Thought about how wrong she'd been. She'd had exactly what this place needed: stubbornness, resilience, the willingness to fail and try again. Not despite her imperfections, but because of them. That was the truth she'd learned in this harsh, beautiful place. Perfection was a lie. Survival was messy. Love was choosing someone's broken parts along with their whole ones and building something from all of it. The failures and the victories, the fear and the courage, the running and the standing ground. She'd come west looking for her sister and found herself instead. Found that she was stronger than she'd known, braver than she'd believed, capable of more than she'd imagined. Found that family wasn't just blood, but choice. That home wasn't a place, but the people you built it with. "What are you thinking?" Cole asked. "That I'm glad I answered your advertisement. Even with everything that came after. Especially because of everything that came after. The easy things don't teach you who you are." Mara turned in his arms. "Thank you for giving me the chance to find out. Thank you for taking it, for staying when you could have run, for fighting for this." He kissed her forehead. "For choosing us." "Always," Mara said, and meant it with everything she had. Inside, Lila shifted in her sleep, murmuring something about gardens and cats. The house settled around them, solid and real and theirs. The mountains stood guard in the darkness, ancient and patient and unchanging. And somewhere out west, maybe Iris was looking at the same stars, carrying her own burdens, making her own choices. Mara hoped she was okay, hoped she'd found peace, or at least the strength to keep searching for it. But whether she had or hadn't, Mara had finally learned to let it go, to trust that some stories weren't hers to finish, that loving someone sometimes meant accepting you couldn't save them. She could only save herself, build her own life, choose her own family, and she had. "Come on," Cole said, leading her toward the door. "Tomorrow we've got work to do." "What kind of work?" "The normal kind. Mending, planting, living." He smiled. "Building something that lasts." Mara followed him inside, into the warm house and the life they were creating together, one imperfect day at a time. The door closed behind them, shutting out the cold and the dark and the past that had chased them here. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tomorrow would also bring new chances, new moments, new opportunities to choose each other, and this life they'd fought so hard to claim. And that, Mara had learned, was more than enough. It was everything.